The protagonist said he had an emergency in his family. He knew their department was up to its ears in work, but he swears he only needs 2 days off. And when he returns, he will make up for lost time. The man, looking at his phone, replied that the new short film department was particularly short-staffed. Therefore, except for special occasions such as weddings or funerals, leave is not provided. Then he pressed his finger on the rocket, and she immediately flew to the girl from the stream. The guy exclaimed that he really needed to leave because his mother was sick and in the hospital, and someone needed to take care of her. The boss replied that he had a father, and if he was busy, perhaps there were other relatives who could help. After all, it's just an illness, and if the mother really gets worse, the company will consider his request. He continued that it was impossible to climb the career ladder without sacrificing oneself. He worked overtime even on the day of his father's funeral, and that is how he became who he is today. And then he became indignant that young people want to take a day off due to illness or a relative's wedding, because how will the company function if everyone goes on vacation? The protagonist stated that he can work from home and always stay in touch. The hero replied that he should forget about it, because he was tired of convincing, and if he wanted an easy life, he should quit. And after he's sorted out the accounting department, he'll be able to spend as much time as he wants with his parents, remaining childish for his own pleasure. The man patted the guy on the shoulder and said that trends wouldn't wait for him, nor would this position, and advised him to think carefully if he was going to leave. The main character sat with a cigarette in his mouth. He reflected on what had happened that day. Suddenly music started playing on the phone. Ki. It's just a legend. The father's voice came from the receiver, asking if Xinwang had time to come. A nurse came up to him, said hello, and asked when he would pay the bills for Mrs. Zhou's treatment. After answering that it would be in a few days, the girl stated that he had said the same thing a few days ago, and if the situation was not resolved this time, the patient would have to be discharged. Nodding, the father said he understood. Then he continued that he was distracted, didn't hear, and asked to repeat it again. The protagonist said that he would return in a few days and would be able to help pay for the treatment. Exhaling, the man replied that his son shouldn't worry. He had already borrowed a little from relatives and friends, and his mother had health insurance that would cover a significant portion. But Xinwang insisted that his father not borrow from his relatives, promised to pay the rest himself, and assured him that he would sort everything out. And he assured the man that everything was fine, and he had money. Looking at the balance, he thought that he had been working for a year and a half and was only earning 5,000 a month. But thanks to saving, living on a bunk bed, cheap food, and working part-time as a video editor, he managed to save 50,000. He realized that he was over 20 years old, but he had not done anything that would help him achieve success. And although there were many job opportunities, his parents couldn't wait, so he decided to quit, as there was no point in staying in a company with such careless management. Now the protagonist is unemployed. He left the company despite the unstable economic situation and the lack of a new job, realizing that he was acting recklessly. The hero heard in his ears that the system of absolute freedom had been activated and he was receiving money. Xinwang was surprised who was watching the video so loudly that their head was buzzing. But then he realized that there was some kind of sign in front of him. His phone buzzed with a message that a deposit of 88,888 yuan had been made. The main character was surprised that it was really scammers writing to him. The voice in his head was heard again, assuring him not to doubt, because the system was activated, and now it was time to start living life to the fullest. Xinwang understood that if he had not seen all this with his own eyes, it would be hard to believe that this is actually happening. The guy thought about it, because the system of absolute freedom meant that he activated it when he quit his job. And then he smiled, deciding that figuring out the system wasn't that difficult, and he would definitely find a way. Then a girl approached him, asking what he was thinking about, and if he had prepared a plan for her upcoming live broadcast. It was Gao Wen, a popular singing and dancing blogger with 8 million fans across the internet. The guy's nose started bleeding from the sight of the heroine's large breasts. He was perplexed because he was distracted and missed what she had just said. She chuckled and repeated that he should give her more operating resources, since the fans who paid the most were starting to relax. The protagonist became thoughtful because Gao Wen, the main internet celebrity, was standing in front of him. Known as the sexiest dance goddess, he was responsible for her broadcasts, and she also loves to joke. Xinwang replied that he had already resigned and would no longer be responsible for working with influencers. The girl opened her mouth in surprise and exclaimed, "Why so suddenly?" The protagonist understood that although Gao Wen did not look down on others and was the easiest person to communicate with, after being fired, their paths diverged. The heroine asked if he was really quitting, since she still wanted Xiao Han to be her manager, because she didn't trust anyone else. The guy thought she was getting too close, and if he didn't show at least a little awareness, he wouldn't be able to restrain himself. The girl didn't understand why he was acting so strange today, because before he had happily played along with her sweet behavior. Xinwang decided not to let himself be deceived, because she was kind to him only because she saw benefit in him, and he replied that he wanted to take a long vacation. After hugging the hero, she told him which company he was going to join, and noted that they would now have to become competitors, and someone else would take over her blog. The guy trembled. Everything that was happening was too exciting, and he could not restrain himself at all. Clenching his fist, he thought of only one thing. With the system, he could easily become a billionaire. The guy thought that the heroine had clearly worked hard on her appearance. After this, Xinwang said that Gao Wen's nose needed to be adjusted a little because it seemed a little crooked. The girl clearly didn't expect this, so she froze in place, and then she grabbed her nose and asked what was crooked. Blushing a little, she took a small mirror out of her bra, and looking at the reflection, she claimed that this was impossible. And then she replied that it did indeed look a little crooked, and the live broadcast was about to start, so it needed to be fixed immediately. The voice said that the wonderful master had actually refused to serve the beauty, and had spoken his true thoughts, boldly, sincerely, and openly, for which he received a reward of 23,333 yuan. The protagonist smiled, declaring, "So this is what absolute freedom means. Be yourself and refuse to be a simpleton. That is the rule of the system." Gao said that she was grateful for the remark, since she herself had not noticed, and since Xiao Han had decided to quit, she would not dissuade him. He was surprised because he expected anger after pointing out the shortcoming, but she remained calm. The girl then said that, after all, they were colleagues, and he had been her manager for a long time, so today she would treat him to a farewell dinner. And if she has problems finding a job, let her write, "The heroine knows the leaders in this industry." Thoughts raced through his head. She probably knew about his level of education, and was worried that he wouldn't find another job. Xinwang replied that he would treat him himself, to which Gao said that the guy had a small salary, and it was better for him to save. The protagonist said that since he was quitting, there was no need to think about money this time. As he had said, they could still work together in the future. She said with a smile that he was already leaving, and only now did she realize that she didn't really know him at all. Looking at the girl, he said that he had already packed all his things, so he would go and contact her after work. The protagonist thought that he used to try to walk whenever possible, used public transport, avoided taxis. "I only decided to travel by car after 11 in the evening, when public transport was no longer running." In his daily life, even sharing a taxi with someone to split the cost was a luxury. But today he will make a huge exception, and he will order the most luxurious car to pamper himself. The driver got out of the vehicle and invited us to get into the car, calling the ride luxurious. Xinwang noted with a smile that, as expected from a luxury car, it arrived in less than 3 minutes. He remembered the past, that it was already too late to find someone to go on a car ride with, and now he would most likely return home only around midnight. But now he felt like he had become completely different. It was a real leap into another class. The driver opened the door slightly and invited the boss to sit down. The system said that the owner felt so wasteful that he would receive a reward of 50,000 yuan. The man asked again if he understood correctly. The intersection was on Boxing Street, to which the hero replied, "Yes," and let the driver stop at Laosi's pancake house. The driver stepped on the gas, saying that he understood. The main character smiled contentedly. After all, luxury and pleasure are so good. A drift car parked near a pancake house. The door opened slightly, and the guy started to come out. He straightened up, looking straight at the counter. The woman, smiling, asked if he wanted the usual pancake without eggs and sausages. To this, Xinwang replied briefly and decisively, "No, add 2 eggs." He also added that he wanted 2 sausages made of pure meat, not starch. The protagonist understood that when his monthly salary was 5,000, he paid 800 for rent and could not spend more than 20 yuan a day on food. But he was smiling because he had added not only 2 eggs, but also 2 sausages made of pure meat, and this even made him envious of himself. Everyone around was discussing how he added 2 eggs and sausages made from pure meat. Some were delighted, while others claimed that sausages with starch were tastier. The voice declared that the owner had added not only eggs, but also sausages to the pancake, calling it a huge leap in living standards and issuing a reward of 20,000 yuan. Xinwang rejoiced, calling the day wonderful and enjoying a hearty snack. And he promised that next time he would add 5 eggs. The hero recalled that when he was a student, he had no money at all for entertainment. And when I started working, I began to lack not only money, but also time. How do you expect ordinary people to have fun? A thought flashed through Xinwang's mind. How could he have forgotten? He has a ton of money, so he can go shopping at the mall. I also need to take Gao Wen out to dinner today, and I noted that, by the way, I heard that expensive restaurants sometimes have a strict dress code, and the main character's current outfit is no good, so it's time to go shopping. The guy stopped at the Louis Vuitton sign. Then he realized that all big shopping malls were like this. There's an orange scent everywhere. Brand names are in English and nothing is clear. And how is that possible? The hero wondered. After all, it's such a super huge shopping center, and there is no Adidas store. Then he smiled, realizing that he was an inexperienced person in such an area. But since he has money, he can buy everything he needs. The main character decided to visit Louis Vuitton. The consultant immediately noticed him, and she analyzed him with her gaze. His hair was uncombed, his bag was filled with junk. The shoes are from the market and worn out. An old model phone costing around 500, pants at a discount from the market. Xinwang asked if anyone would serve him. He felt angry in his mind, because even though they looked poor, they reeked of snobbery. He said that he was tired after work, did not want to go and choose himself, and wanted to pick out clothes for about 150,000 yuan. And turning around, he declared that since they were not going, he would go to neighboring Erm. Suddenly the girls turned to look at him. Then everyone ran up and started asking questions about the products they were interested in. The hero grinned and concluded that money talks. Bowing slightly, the girl told the guy to come again. And the main character only noticed that the rich were indeed treated luxuriously, even having their things carried for them and delivered wherever they were ordered. The heroine said that, if possible, she asks him to attend a jewelry appraisal event at the end of the month. And she asked Xinwang if he wanted her to deliver the things to his house. The guy replied that it wasn't worth it, he preferred to do everything himself. Having bowed, the girl wished the hero a good day. Visitors gossiped that there were LV and Hermes stores in Longda Plaza, but they were too expensive for them. Only Sister Hu can afford this, and they don't dare buy things from boutiques, only through agents. Having received another reward, the hero realized that the more you spend, the more you get. Just a little more and Xinwang will become a millionaire. Meanwhile, a fine Western restaurant. And a glamorous and stunning guy. The heroine said with a smile that she would take Mr. Han to his reserved room. Xinwang thought that it seemed like he had arrived too early. The girl continued that the VIP box had a separate relaxation area and suggested enjoying desserts while waiting for guests. He thought about it. Before, he couldn't even dream of such service. But now he realized that they judge a person by their clothes. The hostess continued that this was a separate relaxation area, with desserts and tea on the table, and that people could help themselves. And if you need something, you can ring the bell. Looking at the city, the guy said that he couldn't even imagine what Sun City looked like from the 40th floor. The bottom line is that as long as you have the money, the best service is available. The dreams that had languished in his head for so long had finally come true. Then the guy said that he would give the money to his father first. But in order not to scare him off, I had to come up with something. After that, I transferred 100,000 yuan. Xinwang decided that he would say that it was from a part-time job. They should not ask questions or be afraid. A female voice was heard. If you think she dances well, let your rockets fly high. She claimed to be her #1 fan, and everyone was waiting for her rockets. Let him show everyone what he is capable of. In a languid voice, the heroine begged, please. The protagonist watched the stream and thought he sent Gao Wen the geolocation and the name of the restaurant, but she didn't respond and just streamed as usual. She showed hearts and thanked the top fan for the rockets. Waving her hand, she said that this was the end of the stream and that she would see me tomorrow. After that, the girl slowly took off her shoes, and she threw them on the table, resting from the load. The girls asked if they should go out to eat, to which Gao replied that she already had plans. One of the girls asked, wow, what are they? Is this really another sugar daddy? She said not to talk nonsense because she knows him. It's Han Xinwang. After this, the girls started chatting. One was surprised that she couldn't forget him. The other asked if there was something between them. The heroine replied that they shouldn't make things up. He had helped her a lot while he was a manager. But now he had quit, and it was just dinner, especially since he was treating her. The girl awkwardly stated that she wanted to go too. Gao Wen calmly invited them to go together. She explained with a smile that it was just dinner, and since Xinwang was hosting, The place was probably expensive, so they would pay for themselves, so consider it a friendly dinner. The friends replied that they didn't mind. One was tired and wanted to pamper herself. The other added that they wouldn't take advantage of someone else's kindness. One of the heroines thought he had an exhausted face. Xinwang ate jianbing without an egg. What kind of restaurant can he even afford? Stretching, the girl said that she still needed to wash off her makeup and that they would meet in the parking lot. And so, they were already going down in the elevator. The heroine pressed the button on the car keys, and she said that it was good that she could take the car today. One of her friends said that advertising has been tough lately, and she doesn't know when she'll be able to afford a car like Gao Wen's sister. And after the offer to host a dance stream, she exclaimed that it was too tiring. She couldn't dance from morning until night. Another friend crossed her arms and replied that Zhang Qingqin was asking too much, and that in their industry they were lucky that their sponsors hadn't slept with each of them in turn. And in her thoughts, she wondered if Gao had really danced to this swallow, and how many top fans she had visited for her sake. After all, with such an appearance, how can she be considered the top one in the agency? Suddenly, the heroine looked at the phone screen in shock. The girl smiled and wondered if the place was really that cheap. But Gao said it was Lingwei, the one in the Qinshan building, the very same super famous restaurant with 3 Michelin stars. My friend was surprised that the price per person there was at least 3,000 yuan, making it almost impossible to reserve a place. The heroine said that he could have simply chosen another establishment in this building, since some people do this on purpose to show off. But Gao Wen was sure that Xinwang was not like that. The heroine thought that he would get it from her for this. They got into the car, deciding that they would figure everything out on the spot. The car started moving, and the girls discussed how the Audi had good suspension and high comfort, unlike the minivan, which bounces like a ball. And others were surprised that she had so many rich people on her streams and asked if she couldn't hook one of them. Blushing, she said that it was worth doing this and squeezed out a voice. And she continued that it didn't matter whether she danced or put on makeup. With less pride and money in the form of rockets, she would simply be blown off her feet by the blast wave. Then she said that seriously, who would want to do something like that, even for a lot of money? After that, she asked why Gao Wen was silent and whether he was looking down on her. The heroine replied that marrying on a whim, without financial independence, means putting yourself in voluntary slavery to your husband. She was mentally outraged that her friend was acting tough, and her dancing in live shows was as provocative as could be. Gao continued that she simply wants to provide for herself, while she can still work and strives to earn as much as possible. After all, men can betray, but money never does. Having parked the car, the girls began to get out. Her friend told her to double-check the place, because if she wanted to treat them, she doubted that even she would have enough money for it. And she suggested that Han Xinwang might have gotten the address wrong. But the main character didn't pick up the phone. The heroine chuckled to herself, deciding that this was her payback for communicating with the show-off. The boomerang had returned. Perhaps he was delayed somewhere and could not answer, because he would not have deliberately set her up like that, and she offered to go up. She understood that since they were already here, he wanted to see her grand disgrace until the very end. Gao knew that Lingwei was an expensive place, even though she could afford it, but she also remembered how much Xinwang earned, and he was also very fond of saving. And in general, she believed that if he couldn't afford it, he wouldn't have made such a joke. But if that's the case, then she'll have to treat everyone. The girl looked out into the hall awkwardly, and I didn't understand why the guy still hadn't answered. This is quite strange. This has never happened before. From behind, they heard the hostess's voice asking about their reservation. The red-haired friend confidently answered yes. The girl replied that the reservation was in the name of Han Xinwang. The manager's salary is only 5,000 yuan, and a menu item in this restaurant is equal to at least 3 months of his salary. But the heroine invited them to follow her, saying that Mr. Han had been waiting for them for a long time. She couldn't believe her ears. Seriously. The heroines walked forward, and one of them thought, Gao Wen is so lucky the company allocates resources to her, and she has firmly established herself in first place. She has to settle for only the second, and there are still all sorts of losers who are trying to attract her attention. Han Xinwang is indeed willing to spend big, but could end up without both money and a girlfriend. Does Gao Wen really like someone who pretends to be rich? A friend said that now she is really worried it might be someone with the same name. The elevator is intended exclusively for VIP clients. Those who can go up to the observation rooms on the top floor, it turns out. This is one person. The red-haired heroine thought that it was probably just a namesake. It would have cost Han Xinyan 3 months' salary. And even then, he would have to starve to save up for something like that. Even if it was really him, the 3 of them would come and see what he would do. Han Xinwang was quite smart. He probably saw that someone with the same name had booked a table at the restaurant and decided to take advantage of the opportunity. The hostess invited them in. The girls hesitated, not understanding why Xinwang was not there. A friend suggested taking a photo since they came here. She beamed and asked if they would take photos, since they said that taking photos in the hallway was not allowed, only in separate rooms. And then she can post it on social media. And who will know if she snuck in here or really came to eat? The red-haired girl thought indignantly. He invited guests, but he himself didn't show up. Nothing unexpected. The blonde was happy because she had never dined in such an expensive restaurant in her life. She thought, who knows if she will ever have a chance to come here again? The girl suggested not to make a fool of herself and suggested that it might be a misunderstanding. The hostess knocked on the door and called the main character. Gao said that they might indeed be mistaken. He was just an ordinary office worker and would hardly be able to afford dinner here. At that moment, a guy came out to them and apologized for being late, as he had simply fallen asleep. And he continued that he woke up because of 4 or 5 missed calls. He hoped that she had not waited long. Then he said that the waiters could start bringing food. The appearance of the main character was amazing. Gao Wen didn't expect such a change in his appearance and watched silently. The blonde trembled when she saw that Han Xinwang was dressed head to toe in designer clothes, and his jacket was very expensive. The heroine enviously thought that this was the last collection of Louis Vuitton. He may be rich in the 2nd generation, but he hides it. And when Gao was so lucky, she quietly picked up a rich guy. She pretended well. The guy looked at the blonde and said that she was not alone. It must be Zhan Qingjing. Turning to the red-haired heroine, he asked who she was. She introduced herself as Chu Xinuo. The protagonist explained that he had just woken up, so he was a little confused. Without filters, she looked a little different. Qiu replied that everything was fine. She'd just put on light makeup today. But such words hurt her. Cao said she was just finishing work, and 2 colleagues wanted to join her. And then the waiters entered the room with dishes, and they wished everyone bon appétit. The girl thought, they can't even afford to split the bill. What is he doing? Why pretend to be someone unknown? Zhan exclaimed that there was a 2nd-generation rich man next to them, and asked, did he really quit his job to come back and inherit the family business? The guy didn't understand how anyone could get full from this, since it was just broth, even though it looked delicious. The blonde asked if they minded if she took a photo first. Xinwang said that he didn't mind, and that they shouldn't be shy. And now the girl has already pointed the camera lens at the expensive snacks. Q wondered what was really going on, and asked if they were deliberately keeping them in suspense. And the heroine admitted that in reality they are not that close, except for communication at work. They hardly ever spoke in person, just a few marketing events in which he helped her. And in general, maybe he's just a modest and pragmatic 2nd-generation rich man. This time, he probably didn't want the girl to pay for the food, so he showed that he was rich. The protagonist asked if there was anything filling, and Zhan was surprised because her brother wasn't afraid to say such things. The girl responded by suggesting anglerfish liver with pineapple, or grilled beef tripe, or Alaskan king crab. The protagonist demanded that they bring more imported crabs, beef and lamb, and cut the meat into pieces. The blonde was amazed because it was the first time she had seen someone order something like this in a fine dining restaurant. It was astonishing. Xiao was indignant because if you want to eat something like that, there is no point in going to a French restaurant. She didn't understand whether he was really rich because he looked more like a liar. The guy continued, adding that they also needed grilled kidneys and kebabs on skewers, and asked if they could make them. The heroine stated that no. They only served dishes from the menu and apologized to the gentleman. He replied that then they could call the manager. He would like to discuss this, because he was very unhappy with these dishes. The hostess couldn't believe that the main character was seriously saying this. A man came up to them, introduced himself as the manager of this establishment, and greeted the gentleman. He continued by saying that he was very sorry, but this was a French restaurant, so they only served French cuisine. Q chuckled, calling it a French restaurant, adding that the refusal was entirely expected. Xinwang insisted on having barbecue cooked for him at a French restaurant. It's funny. The hero declared that he would pay 300,000 to eat grilled kidneys and lamb shashlik, and if this is arranged, he will give another 50,000 as a tip. The heroines were surprised that it was 300,000. The manager lit up as he calmly asked how well he wanted the kidneys done. Patting him on the shoulder, Xinwang replied that he would reward him with the largest kidney sashimi as a token of his commitment to the restaurant's standards. Although he preferred the daring look, the protagonist received the award again and then said that food should be enjoyable. The blonde was delighted to notice that it was a photograph of kidneys. Grilled at a high-end restaurant, it can be even more engaging for social media. In a moment, there were already many beautiful dishes on the table. Jan trembled, admiringly saying that money solves everything, and if you have it, you can do whatever you want. She wondered who would believe her if she said she had eaten shashlik on skewers in a French restaurant. With 3 Michelin stars on the top floor of Qingtian Tower, the tallest building in Beijing. After a while, there was almost nothing left of the food. Wiping his mouth with a napkin, Xinwang noted that he needed to go to the toilet. When he left, conversations began. No one could understand what kind of person he was. After all, his clothes cost no less than 150,000 yuan, and everyone was sure that he was definitely from a rich family. The blonde said that, as they say, rich people like to taste life. Qiu asked Gao if she wasn't touched, and if she didn't like Xinwang. Jan chuckled, admitting that her heart was practically jumping at the thought of such a rich guy courting her. Another heroine asked that Gao Wen supposedly knew everything, but hid the truth from them. The girl was surprised how she could behave like that if she had never even thought of doing so. Her legs shook because they didn't really know each other, and she didn't know that Xinwang was from a rich family. The redhead replied that all right, he would believe her. And then she said that nowadays, many people pretend to be rich by treating people to expensive dinners. Jan exclaimed that if he had been pretending to be a beggar all this time, then he was an excellent actor. She assured that she had one way to check this. Gao asked hesitantly if they had to check it. After all, that would be too much on their part. Q thought, there's no need to make a scene here. And she said that one shouldn't forget that she is a big and famous star, and any person would spend hundreds of thousands of yuan to win her over. She warned that such people can be manipulative and that friendship with them is dangerous. The heroine replied that she had no intention of starting a relationship with Khan. Q continued that there was no need to worry. They would reveal his nature, because they were like sisters. The heroes have already reached the parking lot. It flashed through Gao's mind that if Xinwang really was poor, she will still pay, but she hopes that everything is okay with him. Chan enthusiastically asked if her brother had a girlfriend. He replied that no, and that he had been alone all his life. The protagonist continued that before his head was only occupied with work, and there was no time left for relationships. But he understood that he literally lived like a dog, saving every paycheck. How could he be so stupid? This is sad and shameful. A voice was heard, offering to stop by the club and buy everyone drinks. It was a red-haired girl who knew one suitable place. The guy answered briefly, "Let's go." The car moved. Xinwang was visible in the reflection of the rearview mirror. Gao Wen watched him silently, apparently worried. And he thought that since he had a ton of money in his account, maybe he should open his own media company. He thought he had worked that long. Who knows how to build a great organization? Ko said the place was very expensive, and she could only buy a couple of drinks. She continued that she would have a hard time paying if they drank more, but hoped no one would mind. The heroes agreed smilingly. Suddenly, the former boss appeared in front of them with the girls. The guy was glad that he would finally be able to visit this famous establishment. Inside, music was playing loudly. The couples did nothing but hug, and they kissed all the time. The hero sat silently at the table. Suddenly, the girl broke the silence and said that she would have a margarita. And what about them? The friends replied that one would take a pink lady and the other a non-alcoholic mojito, since she was driving. Noticing that the main character was silent, she thought that he seemed to be pretending to be rich and did not know what to order. The girl repeated the question, "What would it be?" And Khan said that he trusted her taste, and she ordered the most expensive cocktail. Chan was indignant. Why order a strong cocktail and warned to be careful? The redhead continued that she wanted to try bartender Danny's cocktail, even though they are expensive. Gao whispered that it was time for her friend to stop this behavior. She replied that they should teach him a lesson. The guy looked around, noticing a couple of famous streamers. Tio didn't understand. He was deliberately ignoring her. The hero then apologized for his absent-mindedness, and Chu suggested playing dice. The protagonist asked about the rules, but the girl decided to make the game more interesting, and she explained that if he loses, he must either pay or take off some of his clothes. He recalled that he had previously worked for the company and knew its skills, and then he suspected her of cheating for money. The hero continued that she probably considered him a small fry with no future, and a poor man without a future, but he invited everyone to an expensive restaurant and club. He continued that he had been trying to ignore her antics all day, had realized her intentions, and had suspected an attempt at deception. Xinwang then admitted that he was not from a wealthy family. Kyo immediately pointed her finger, "You see?" He replied that he had not finished speaking yet. The main character menacingly declared that although he was not from a rich family, he had money, and he offered her a game for 300,000 yuan. Gao approached them suggesting that they not get angry and just relax together. Kyo was indignant, not believing that he had money, and doubted that anyone would believe it. Then Xinwang shouted that he would pay 300,000 yuan and treat everyone to drinks. Now the fun is at his expense. In the background, the waiter announced that the payment was successful and returned the card. The guests shouted that the brother was the best. They couldn't imagine that there was such a generous person here. The girl was surprised, not believing that he actually paid such a sum. And the hero told Chu that he knew how she looked at the poor, but he didn't need respect. Xinwang said that for him, people like her, just pathetic bugs, which can be easily humiliated by money. Shan noticed that her friend was too downcast. She jumped up and said that she remembered about the evening's chores and decided to leave. She ran away in tears. The guy silently twirled the glass in his hand. But the girl said that the drinks were paid for anyway, and they could stay. Someone's voice was heard calling Gao Wen. Some girl asked if the heroine had come to drink away her sorrows after an unsuccessful stream. She asked to talk about work during working hours, because now she is resting. But the stranger continued, accusing her of pretending and putting herself on display. Guo removed the girl's hand and declared that it was none of her business. Xinwang watched such impudence in silence, and the heroine said that the chance to conduct a broadcast could not be missed. The heroine turned on the camera and happily announced a joint stream with Gao Wen. And showing the girl, she said that apparently she wasn't very eager and that they should ask together. Messages started pouring into the chat that everyone was waiting. The pink-haired girl thought that with such an advantage as a rich man, she would definitely overtake Gao Wen, so it's worth waiting for her to call. The heroine said that she needed to answer. A voice came on the line, urging Gao Wen to start broadcasting immediately so as not to miss out on a wave of subscribers. And the voice added that the space on the main page had already been paid for, so the stream was mandatory. The streamer said that Gao would not hide because she loves her fans. Then she asked if the girl was afraid, but she replied that no, and it was time to start. The blonde said, "Wow, so many rockets from subscribers. Only they are not for a friend." Gao Wen loses. The stranger was happy because everything was for her. And in another heroine's chat, they wrote that the live performances were weak. They feel sorry for her because the girl is streaming against her will. Xinwang silently read the comments that Gao would definitely lose. And I thought, they decided to play dirty then. And then the rocket flew. Big Brother sent a rocket to the girl. She thanked her brother. And then for all subsequent missiles. The missiles continued to fly. And the pink-haired girl wondered if she really had other top donors. She didn't understand why they were wasting money. And she didn't understand why Gao was so feigning surprise. The guy asked if there was any point in continuing further. The blonde exclaimed, "It can't be. My friend isn't dancing anymore, and the rich man is donating. Maybe the child took the phone and clicked by mistake." The girl asked to take a breath. Another rich man decided to increase the number of missiles and send them all to Shuya. And so, rockets also flew at the stranger. The heroine thought, well, finally, and she thanked all her donors. And her best donor wanted her to send the video in private messages. So why not? And now he definitely won't miss the chance to become the hero of this stream. The main character smiled and said, "So that's how it is." And he started poking at the screen, sending Gao Wen 100 missiles, then already 500, and 1,000 missiles. In the end, streamer Gao Wen won. The opponent was in complete shock. How could someone send 1,000 missiles to this girl? Gao bowed and thanked her big brother. But to earn that kind of money, it takes hard work, so it's not worth wasting it on her. The pink-haired girl was angry at how Gao took all the glory for herself. Tens of millions of yuan were spent on donations, and the stream had millions of viewers. Even the platform's top streamers can't dream of such figures. The protagonist encouraged Miss Shui, saying that she had done well and could surpass Gao Wen. The blonde understood that his words could seriously anger the streamer. The heroine watched silently, how the heroes walked away. As they walked out, Zhan said that Lu Shui's face turned white as chalk, and now she's probably cursing herself for the plan's failure. She also learned that Han was super rich, and Gao Wen had become the biggest donor on the platform. "Isn't the heroine happy about this?" her friend asked. She replied that she felt unworthy of it. A friend cheered her up by suggesting that he was a donator. He's probably a great guy to get to know better. And now the blonde will send him a message in private. A notification was heard from behind. It came from Khan. Chan exclaimed that it was the sound from a streaming app. After all, she had just sent a message, and immediately, a new one arrived. The main character replied that it was just a coincidence, and that one shouldn't look at it that way. And despite being fired, he still receives messages from work, so there's no point in imagining things too much. Kao said that now he has spent 1 million, and what will happen next? He will spend $1 billion. Xinwang replied that although he had some money, he did not earn $1 million in a second. Chan said that that big brother had Wang in his nickname, and it's not good to lie if it really was him. Suddenly, someone's voice called out to Gao Wen. A drunk boss appeared at the door, saying he had been watching the stream. I recognized the club from the background and went out to get some air, meeting her just in time. And then he saw Han, who was nearby, and laughed. Was it really Gao who invited him? She replied that she actually relied on Xinwang, since he had invited her to dinner and treated everyone to drinks. The man said she must be joking, and he asked if she had fallen for this poor guy and was now trying to cover for him. And then he said that he knew the truth, that a mysterious stranger was paying for the drinks, and he doesn't believe it was Xinwang. Chan ran forward, exclaiming that it really was him. The boss was indignant, who allowed her to open her mouth. A couple of fans appeared, and that's it. I became bold. But even these fans are not real. He continued that the company had invested a lot of effort and money into it to gain subscribers. The company considered her a loss-making asset and advised her to study with Gao Wen, whose evening dance brought in millions. And if Zhan is already streaming, then let him at least take off his clothes while putting on makeup. There's no need to act like a prude. The boss continued, reminding Gao Wen that she seemed to say that she didn't want to be a dancing streamer anymore. He promised promotion and TV appearances if she accepted his offer. But for this, you only need one night with him. Suddenly, someone stopped the man's hand. It was Xinwang who demanded respect. The boss pulled his hand back and said, "Listen, you poor bastard." He asked what the hero could give her, money or clothes. After all, he wears counterfeit brands himself. Xinwang told the boss to get lost from here. Gao Wen said that if manager He harasses her again, she will terminate her contract with the company. He chuckled that she had to work for another year. The girl replied that she had earned several million today, alone, and she has personal savings, so she will definitely be able to pay the fine. The man burst out laughing, because even if she pays the fine, the company won't let her go anywhere. Who in their right mind would give away a cash cow? Besides, just one word from his boss, and she will be on everyone's blacklists. Standing in front of Gao, Han stated that since the girl could not leave, the main character is ready to buy the Meow Media Company, and then it won't be her who has to quit, namely to this man. He chuckled and said, "Wow, well that's impressive. He'll wait for that broke bastard to buy the company." And he spat and said that he had driven me crazy. Damn idiot, decided to show off in front of others. Suddenly, Zhan began to tremble with tension, and, unable to hold back her tears, she asked if they were really not real. Gao turned to the girl and asked what. Zhan screamed, not believing that all of her donors and the fans were fake and hired by the company. Taking her friend's hand, the girl said that many people enjoy watching her makeup on stream, and He Shui is deliberately putting pressure on you to manipulate you, and it's best not to react to him. Stroking Zhan, she told her not to be upset by the words of this vile scumbag. The main character just silently watched what was happening. Gao Wen then turned to Han Xinwang and thanked him for standing up for her, and she thanked her trembling friend for helping her find out the truth about Shuya. She burst into tears, realizing that without her friend, she would not have known how they were all looked down upon. Then the friend started stomping and shouting obscene phrases. The heroine said that she was grateful, but asked him not to do that again, because she and Mr. He were colleagues. The main character said with a smile that he didn't really like him anyway, and here was a chance to express everything. The girl extended her hand and said she didn't know if they would ever get together again, but she believes in Khan's great future and asked him to take care of himself. After shaking her hand, he told Gao Wen to take care of herself too. The car's headlights lit up. The protagonist realized he had gotten so carried away launching rockets on stream that I missed the notification. 1, 10, 100, 1,000. The guy laughed with joy because now he had become a real millionaire. Xinwang decided to fly by plane to get home faster. Looking at the prices, he was indignant that he had previously ridden the express train for only 300 yuan. But after exhaling, he said that he would have to fork out some money. The system congratulated him by sending a reward for choosing the most expensive option. The main character has already arrived at the dorm room. Very soon, morning came. Xinwang was sleeping soundly when suddenly, they started knocking loudly on the door, saying it was time to pay the rent. Barely waking up, he thought that she had started whining again a week before payment. Although the time has not come yet, the shouts continued, demanding that Han Xinwang come out and pay the rent. The hero barely forced himself to get up. It was only 6 in the morning. He shouted, "At home, but let the people sleep longer." He left the room, and the woman immediately declared that young people today are completely lazy. and they are incapable of showing even a drop of responsibility. The guy squeaked the QR code on the woman's badge, and he stated that it had been paid for a year in advance. I received a notification that 10,000 yen had been received. She didn't understand where the poor boy suddenly got money from, and also to pay the rent for a year in advance. The heroine noticed that Han would overpay by 400 yen. Yawning, he said that they should consider it payment for the service, and not bother him for a whole year. The door slammed right in front of the heroine's nose, and she remained standing silently. Falling onto the bed, he thought that the plane was only at 10, and you can sleep some more. The neighbor asked if his brother had won the jackpot. Paying a year's rent in advance was already great, but he also added half a month's rent to her. Suddenly, a voice in his head said that the gentleman's coolness had reached new heights, and he deserved a villa in Swan Bay. The main character grabbed the phone abruptly and looked at the screen, and now he has not only a room, but also an entire villa. The neighbor simply watched the hero in silence. Shinwang quickly got dressed, and he began to descend from the second tier of the bed. The guy asked where the neighbor was going in such a hurry, to which he shouted that he shouldn't get bored, he would soon return after visiting his parents. Now, with that kind of money, the protagonist can pay for a VIP room for his mother. The parents discussed how Han was agitated and transferred 100,000 yen to his mother, and they were worried that he might have done something illegal to get her treatment. With a smile, the man said that there was no need to worry. After all, he was their son. The room opened suddenly and a scream was heard. "Mom!" Her son asked her how she was feeling and asked her to answer honestly whether she was feeling better. Smiling, the mother said that her health had worsened a little, but after the operation she was already much better. The father asked whether his son would have problems at work because of his sudden leave, to which the main character replied that he quit. The parents exclaimed, "How is this possible?" And then the parents supported their son, saying that now he had a reason to rest because he had lost so much weight. The guy was pleased to know that no matter what, he was supported. The protagonist asked if Dad had managed to pay the medical bills. Patting his son on the shoulder, he said that he had managed to borrow some money and would return the 100,000 to Shinwang. He said that let the money stay with the father, and now they could repay the debt. The man hesitated when he said that he borrowed them from relatives. The main character was indignant, probably at his aunt and uncles. The Khan exclaimed that he would return their money immediately. His father held him back, saying that he and his mother would pay him back. Covering her face with her hands, Mom burst into tears, saying that it is all her fault. Her son worked so hard and Her son stopped her, saying that not everything was so bad, and the work isn't that hard, honestly. But he will still go to his uncle. He doesn't want to feel obligated to anyone. The driver was standing near the hospital. Shinwang said he needed to go to Hutong Street 32. The car moved, bouncing on the bumps. The main character was outraged by such roads. Sitting in the trailer, he recalled that the roads had been promised to be completed within 2 years. The driver said that the contractor removed the asphalt, promised to level the ground, but disappeared. Shinwang was outraged. Where does the law even look? He thought that without his parents, he could have remained a beggar in the wilderness. But thanks to them, he received an education. The main character paid the man. And, looking at the house, he thought that his relatives lived in a mansion, almost a mansion, with more than 100 square meters, while his family was languishing in a shack 10 times smaller. Clenching his fists, he thought, what if his grandfather's inheritance had gone to their family? They would live in a mansion, and now I have to beg my relatives to lend me a measly 50,000 yuan for treatment. Opening the door, a girl appeared on the threshold and asked who was there. The heroes were surprised at each other. Then Jinwang asked Wang Ju what she was doing in his uncle's house. They looked at each other. Chu, hesitating, began to speak. Having hugged the heroine, the guy said that it would be better for his future wife to be in his house. He thought about it. That's it. Turning around, the main character asked if his uncle was home. Jo wondered why Xinwang was so cold towards her. Having spanked the girl on the butt, the guy asked her what she was staring at, to which she replied that Xinwang looked like a complete nobody. He doesn't have a single brand of clothes, even though he lives in a big city. In their hinterland, it's much better. At least they can afford brands. The main character entered the house where they were playing cards. The uncle stated that his nephew works in the city and has become a real city dweller. One of the players replied that you can get ahead in big cities, and he must be making good money there. The guy behind me sarcastically remarked that in the city they work for 5,000, but in the village they pay 3. And he continued, asking how much of this money they managed to put aside, and whether there is more left over than grandma has after paying the rent. Xinwang said that he didn't come here to chat, but to repay a debt. The man replied that there was no need to rush into repayment due to the difficult family situation, but he would still charge interest. to which the hero replied that he shouldn't worry. The uncle stated that they both understood that he lived in a big city, tried to save money and help his family. Then the man said that since he insisted, he would not dissuade him, and that it would be fine to return it in parts. And he asked Dakai to give him the red book. Handing over the book, he said that he couldn't watch him go out of his way to pay off his debts. Well, family is more important than money. They are a family after all, and there is no point in arguing. A few minutes later, Khan said he had transferred the debt with interest. Uncle picked up the phone, and he turned pale because he transferred the amount. With his mouth open, he asked, not understanding, where from? Turning around, Xinwang asked what he meant by where from. He works in a big city. Dakai chuckled, certain that Xinwang had spent all the money on a rainy day to pay off the debt. Zhu said that she would go with him to clear everything up. Catching up with the guy, she said that they would soon become relatives, and there was no point in holding on to old feelings. She knows that Xinwang has always liked her, but the main character was always like a little brother to her. Zhu continued, saying that if people found out, her reputation would suffer. The guy asked again with a grin, and he likes her. Let him better look at himself in the mirror. He continued, reminding her that she used to be simple, and now she decided to wear something revealing and pick up a rich guy. He noted with regret that before she didn't care who was rich and who was poor, but now it didn't matter anymore. She replied that he was angry because she refused to become his girlfriend, but grievances should be left in the past. He turned around and rolled his eyes, saying that Zhu is crazy. The heroine screamed that Khan had achieved nothing. His life is a joke and his education is useless. She continued by stating that she was dating for the money and living in luxury thanks to her wealth. She reminded that her mother's treatment could cost tens of thousands and that his character was difficult to live with. Xinwang briefly asked the girl if she had said everything. Smiling, the hero said that no one cared about her and her new husband. Angrily, Zhu began poking at the guy, not knowing what to say. The main character stated that although he is not rich, he is hardworking, respects his parents, and treats people with dignity. And he asked me not to throw my tantrums. A voice in my head said that the gentleman's house was slated for demolition. But what does this mean, slated for demolition? Holding Zhu's hand, he said that people like her and her husband should be locked up or in prison. The main character said goodbye and left. At that moment, a car drove quickly in front of him. Then she braked, but Xinwang was already covered in mud. It turned out that Dakai was driving and, hurrying to work, did not notice him and apologized. He then continued that he works as a contractor for the city's renewal department, and he laughed, offering to carry bricks if work was needed. The hero thought that it was not surprising to see such a road. Then he will do all the locals a tiny favor, building of the branch of the urban renewal department. The man thanked Khan for his visit. Waving his hand, the guy replied that he was glad to see him. As a reward, Xinwang received 100 books, and he answered how many. The voice hesitated, saying that the system had made the decision automatically based on the behavior. The protagonist calmed him down and said that he was not accusing him of anything. Looking up at the sky, he said that the system was giving out increasingly strange rewards. The boy was peeling apples for his mother. A few minutes later, the doctor came in, reported the successful operation, and ordered us to pack our things. Xinwang jumped up, indignantly reminding that his mother had just had surgery yesterday and was still recovering, to which the man replied that he was mistaken and wanted to say that she had already been discharged, and nurses should help the patient pack her things. The main character froze. The doctor shouted, "Didn't you hear? Your mother is healthy. They have other patients." Xinwang threw the knife on the nightstand. The hero shouted at him to put the knife down immediately, otherwise he would call security. Mom wanted to leave, but the guy replied that she needed recovery. Smiling, the man said that even she agreed. He ordered that all things be collected, so that new patients would not think that poor people had been treated here. Clenching his hand into a fist, the hero told his mother to peel the apple herself, and he would call his father and take care of business. The woman replied that he should not quarrel with the doctors because they were ordinary people and could do nothing to oppose them. Turning around, the son replied that everything would be fine. In the doctor's office, he had already said that friends could come to the ward. He also reminded that even a simple foot sprain will require at least 3 months of treatment. The guy said that Dr. Lee was amazing. The man said that Han Sinhan, a worthless man, only paid for the treatment thanks to their family. He smiled, thanked her for contacting him, and promised dinner as a token of his gratitude. And then he thought he would see how Han Xinwang would cope with the difficulties on his territory. The hero was happy because his affairs were going well. The guy was eavesdropping all this time, and I realized that it was all because of a bribe. There was a knock at the hospital director's office. The man asked who had come to see him. to which the main character replied that he was an ordinary patient at their hospital. The director explained that he was not accepting patients and advised me to see a doctor. Sitting down on the sofa, he said he would like to discuss donating an additional building to the hospital. The director replied that if they had nothing better to do, they should go to the consultation window. And then, surprised, he asked again what he had said. The hero generally knows the cost of the building, and I thought that the guy looked like a poor man. Shinwang replied that of course he knew, but he thought that for him it was a drop in the ocean. They began to discuss the details, and the director thought, "It looks like the guy is here to inform." Khan explained that bribes are being taken here due to a lack of space in the ward. The man assured that this was out of the question. The main character told a recent story about his mother, to which the director admitted that the ward was a bit cramped. But discharging a person immediately after surgery is not possible. He didn't believe a single word, after which the hero handed over the voice recorder. The man began to listen. The recording contained a dialogue between a doctor and a guy in the office. The man stated that the recording could have been faked and was not evidence. Khan replied that the recording could be considered fake, but he would donate the real building. And he called Mr. Kang, offering to take on the renovation of the building for the district hospital. Now let's see what the hero can do to resist this. Shinwang approached the director, offering to talk on the phone if he didn't believe him, and he handed the phone to the man, telling him not to be so stubborn. The director listened to the voice, and I realized that it really was Mr. Kang. It turns out that this young man was not lying, but the man still insisted that one recording was not enough. He thought that if one building was not enough, he could add a few more. And finally, he said that such doctors should be severely punished. Stopping the guy, the director asked his name. The protagonist replied that his name did not matter. But if that's what he needs, that may call the guy a messenger of justice. A few minutes later, the man made a call, and he sternly demanded that he be immediately provided with the latest lists of patients discharged after surgery. The doctor was informed that Director Lee was waiting. The man suddenly fell to his knees, begging not to be fired. After all, he has a large family to feed. The director said that he thought about his family and about the families of his patients. True gave her boyfriend a massage and admired his success in business. Suddenly, someone burst into their room, accusing the hero of lying because the stranger's wife had just been kicked out of the room. He continued, explaining that she had been pushed out of the hospital and was now angry and would not let him come home. The guy jumped up, shouting that. Taking the phone, he started babbling that everything had been mixed up and that he would call now and find out everything. He started calling, but there were only long beeps. And then a voice said that the dialed number was unavailable. The mother asked her son if maybe it wasn't worth hiring a nurse and buying all the equipment. The hero replied that the hospital had organized all of this, free of charge. He chuckled, thinking that he would be doing good deeds selflessly. Dakai's cry was heard, blaming Han Sin-wan for what had happened. After all, he paid almost 10,000 yen for the room. But because of him, everything was lost. The woman became angry and asked what he was talking about. The main character said that he spent more than 10,000, but his mother was still kicked out of the hospital. Dakai denied this, claiming that she should have been discharged after the operation. The son replied that the director had given this order after learning about bribery and corruption in the hospital. The guy said he was demanding compensation, to which he only smirked, shaming him for demanding money from a poor family. Let him not even compare their lives. Then Xinwang started to lead Mom away from this idiot. The hero thought, after all, a beggar can't have connections. Maybe he was just lucky. Then Dakai spat, saying, "Piffed on this poor guy." The protagonist looked after him. Stupid fool, he thought. The woman was worried that the guy would start taking revenge. Shinwang laughed and replied, "I wonder how he would do it." Dakai thought about it, because the guy in the car looked like Kang, although he shouldn't appear in such a place. The car stopped at the gate of the main character's house. He ran inside, thanking for the help. Shinwang stated that the respected man came to thank ordinary people for their help and politeness. The man thought that Xinwang was hiding his affairs even from his parents, but Kang understood everything in time. The boy decided to move away, telling his mother that he was quick. What kind of person is he? So rich, but he doesn't want to show off in front of everyone. Kang said that everything that was asked to be done by today was already ready. Dakai picked up the phone, greeting Mr. Zhao with a smile. On the line, they told him that he was no longer involved in road repairs. He pressed the brake pedal sharply. The car stopped in the middle of the road. The hero asked how that could happen. Dakai continued, explaining that he had already hired workers and paid them in advance, and now he was suddenly stunned. Jay replied that construction companies now have new rules, and if workers do not meet standards, cooperation is impossible. The phone started to fall out of his hands, and he kept repeating, "No, no, no." The man chuckled. What could he do? He couldn't disobey Mr. Kang. Dakai was carrying a red packet, and he said that he had made arrangements with Mr. Zhao in advance. He takes on the construction and repair of roads, and the other one simply receives interest. What if his profit increases? As he thought, this man was simply not satisfied with the small percentages. Then he continued that building codes are just tinsel, and even if you don't manage to pass the inspection the first time, he'll just start a new company with the same employees and try again. The man jumped up, indignant at the accusations, and he demanded an explanation for the attempt to involve him in illegal activities. Dakai replied that they simply misunderstood each other and offered to give 50%. Ja responded with fury that he considered him almost like a brother, and he decided to set him up like this. The man told him to get lost. There was a knock on the door, I heard. Come in. A man appeared on the threshold. Zhao, on behalf of all the city's residents, thanked Mr. Han for the money spent on road repairs. Xinwang asked to keep it between them, explaining that his elderly parents suffered from leg pain. They can easily injure their ankle or break their leg due to bumps in the road, and he hopes that the road will not break down in a year. Zhao will tolerate this only because the hero is rich, and he said that they would build a better road. The system has awarded Xinwang a reward again. Screams were heard from the main character's uncle's house. Chu reproached Han Dakai for his idleness, reminding him that he had not done any cleaning or laundry all day, and she continued to shout that she would have chosen Han Xinwang, not him. After all, he works in a city where there are prospects. Dakai angrily asked what she had just said. The girl replied that even an idiot was more useful than him, calling him useless. In his place, she would have knelt before Chief Zhao and begged for her job back, surprised at how he could have fooled her like that. Turning around, she said that she would rather go to Xinwang, but the hero stopped her. Then he hit her in the face and shouted that she hadn't earned anything. The parents were shown the documents. The woman didn't understand what all this meant. The engineer himself explained that the road construction would only affect 1 square meter of the site, and as compensation, the company will build a house. The engineer added that if the conditions are unacceptable, other compensation options, including monetary compensation, can be discussed. The parents did not understand when prosperity had come to the village. Father shouted to Xinwang that they would build a house for them, and so they were already standing at the station. The mother told her son to take care of himself and his health, and not to stay late at work. Hugging her, Xinwang said that he would definitely take care of himself, and hurried to the bus. The hero said goodbye. Sitting on the phone, the main character thought how lucky he was to have visited his parents and earned some money. Kaowen noticed him and asked what he was doing there. The guy said he went home to visit his mother. She asked worriedly whether he had quit because of the woman's illness and inquired about her health. The main character replied that everything was fine already. She was glad of such a chance meeting. Xinwang also found this a pleasant coincidence. Suddenly, Gaowen asked him if he had any plans after leaving his job and whether he had applied to a new company. But if suddenly he doesn't want to talk about it, then it's okay. The hero replied that he had no plans to get a job yet, but might even open his own business. In his thoughts, he admitted that he would specifically buy the building opposite his former work. She replied that if necessary, Khan could turn to her for help, adding that she has useful business contacts. She was mentally outraged that he Shui had gone completely crazy, calling her 100 times a day. The voice on the other end of the line said that they had been waiting for her on the live broadcast for half an hour. Let him hand over the tickets and just start the stream. Gaowen replied that the plane was about to take off, and the next flight would be in 10 hours. But he Shui didn't care at all. There's nothing wrong with waiting 10 hours. She was indignant that she had been occupying the first place in the company's ratings for 6 months already, and she earned a lot of money, so she can't be considered a freeloader. The boss reminded her that she shouldn't forget about the contract. The man heard Xinwang and said that now it was clear why she was uncomfortable. The heroine said that she didn't make anything up. Today I posted photos of round-trip tickets in the work chat. The boss replied that then it would not be difficult for her to prove it on live television. Suddenly, the main character snatched the phone from the girl's hands, and he told the man to name the amount of the fine, and he would pay it. And this conversation was recorded, and Xinwang can go to court. At that moment, the main character ended the call. The boss was as indignant as he dared. Gao hesitated, hoping he was joking about the fine. She felt awkward and wondered if she deserved such support. She said that it would be better to pay for it herself somehow. Xinwang replied that there was no need to worry or be concerned. After all, he was planning to open his own media company, buy an office opposite his former work, and find friends to help. The heroine was surprised that he wanted to create a company just to compete with their firm. The guy told her that he could offer her a job in his company, and they will have a profit of 70 to 30%. Gawain smiled, saying that he was amazing. The main character thought about increasing the share, but the girl shouted no, because she thought the interest rates were already too high. For such conditions, she should have been offered much less. The hero explained that he wanted to repay the kindness shown, and her help will be invaluable. The guy guaranteed that she would earn so much that the penalty would seem like a trifle. He added that he had paid her salary for several months in advance. Gao thought that Xinwang was extending a helping hand to her, although it all sounded like she was helping him. The heroine answered, "Okay, office area." Inside the office of Myo Media Group, the boss said that Gao Wen showed up after Xinwang had managed to pull the wool over her eyes, while they were tumbling around in bed. He said that if she believed Xinwang and brought him into the company, then she has no brains. The protagonist demanded that they stop talking nonsense, call lawyers, and free Gao Wen from the slave contract. Rising from his chair, he asked if Khan understood how much it would cost to pay the penalty. Rumors reach him that the hero has suddenly become rich, but still, the poor are losing their heads over money, and he compared luck to a house of cards. If you borrow money for show, you can quickly drown in debt. Xinwang replied that money comes back if you spend it. Judging by the former boss's face, he is afraid that the main character can take Gao Wen from them. He stated that he does not own the company and is not afraid whether it will be taken away or not. The protagonist said that he Shui's power makes people do terrible things, and he worries about the boss's future. The man recalled that Xinwang had previously obeyed him like a tame dog. The guy said he had an employment contract, and if he is called a dog, it is an insult for which he can sue. The lawyer brought the contracts. The boss asked if Gao Wen would really sign the documents for a kid with money, and then he'll crawl back and complain. She said there was no need to worry about her. After all, the heroine has already signed the contract. The man then asked where the payment was. The guy said that everything had already been paid, but the boss didn't believe him. But the main character replied, "Let him go to the accounting department and check, idiot." "Nice view," Xinwang noted. "And now we can discuss some details." The protagonist received the reward, and the dream of revenge was fulfilled. The heroes were called out from outside the office. A friend was running towards them. She asked Gao Wen if she really quit, but the blonde was asked not to worry. They would still see each other. The heroes looked at the building where the guy's office was located. Xinwang said that the girl can come here at any time. Jinkin was amazed that. Suddenly, Xinwang received a call. A voice came from the phone, announcing that the property documents were ready, and he asked when Khan would come for them. The main character replied that he would be there soon. He said that upon returning, he completely forgot about his own home. The guy said that everything was settled, and Gao Wen could rest, and he will go and resolve the remaining issues. The heroine said that Khan had reimbursed the penalty. Chinkin realized that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. The voice said that an important client would arrive today, and everyone should behave according to his status. It was a girl, and she ordered that every effort be made. They told her that they would do everything in the best possible way. The signal to assemble was heard. The man said that Mr. Han would arrive soon, and he ordered to meet him at the entrance. Having first put myself in order, this is their honored client, so they cannot be neglected. The girl asked if there was a photo of the client, so as not to confuse him with someone else. The man replied that such people love to brag about their money, and it is impossible to confuse them. Moreover, she has been in sales for a long time, so she must have intuition. Suddenly, he asked why they left a layer of dust and demanded perfect cleanliness without a single crumb. Their clients should not experience any inconvenience. The car stopped at the building. The main character said, "Wow." Now he understood why this company was first on the list. "I wonder who these people are waiting for. Probably a big shot. Why is there no one inside? Are all the workers really outside?" The girl greeted the client, but the manager called out to her, asking her to come to him. Irene should not accept any clients, but wait for Han. He was angry that they were running out of time. The girl was outraged that they didn't put up a sign saying they were closed. The manager said how stupid she was. "This poor guy will bother a dear client. We need to get rid of him." Suddenly, the man said that if you are not going to buy, there is no point in distracting the workers and staring. He called Irene to clean up the dust and see the client out, to avoid getting a reprimand from the director. Xinwang asked why he should leave if he hadn't seen anything. The manager was indignant that he didn't even have 100 yuan in his pocket, but he was standing there and disgracing himself. The protagonist was outraged that managers looked down on ordinary customers and inflated prices. Suddenly, he received a call, asking if the gentleman had arrived at the office, and if you have any questions, you can address them to the manager. The man was surprised. The voice seemed very familiar. The guy replied that he had been called a loser, so he was canceling the deal and would buy the mansion from another company. The girl asked me to wait. She would come right away. She thought there was a misunderstanding, and she promised to twist the manager's head off. The heroine immediately said, "Let's go to the sales office." She didn't understand what this impudent manager was doing. An important guest was supposed to arrive today, and she threatened that if the rich man harbored a grudge, he would be to blame. The manager promised the lady to sort everything out, and he shouted that he asked to leave on good terms. That mysterious rich man must have found out that they were entertaining the rabble. Judging by the poor man's face, the manager was clearly mistaken in hearing the boss's voice. Grabbing the girl by the ear, he shouted that her prettiness meant nothing, and that it was because of her that she was having problems with clients. She began to cry, saying that she was just doing her job. Having pushed the guy, the hero told the beggar to get lost. At that moment, their boss appeared, shouting Wang Shen, but he kept telling the main character to get out. The manager turned around and wanted to tell the lady what had happened, but she passed by. She must be still furious about the poor kid, I think the manager. The girl introduced herself as the vice president. She apologized for the manager's behavior and suggested calling her simply Lee. The man was shocked. This can't be. The lady continued that in the future they would improve their approach to clients. The worker realized that this was the same rich man. The manager thought the mysterious rich man looked like a ragamuffin, and he clearly doesn't look like a wealthy person. The boss shouted that she had already told her more than once not to underestimate clients, but they never listened to her. Or he thinks that since he sells expensive apartments, he's better than everyone else. As of tomorrow, the man is fired. The manager burst into tears as he said, "Ms. Lee." The hero fell to his knees. He shouted that he had a big family and a mortgage. The girl knows everything. The hero cannot lose his job. Ms. Lee said he knew the company's rules, but did things his own way. Then the manager crawled up to Xin Wang and began to beg him. The heroine was worried that her turn would soon come. The protagonist pointed to the girl, saying that she was a good employee and that she should be promoted. The lady replied that there was no problem. The man's mouth dropped open in shock. "This girl will be the manager." Khan said that he had little time, so he had to watch faster. The girl couldn't believe she got promoted. The owner received a heart as a reward, but the hero did not yet understand why. The voice explained that the heart was personal praise from the system, which should not be underestimated. The courtyard leading to the entrance of the mansion. No sooner had the gates opened than a chorus of voices was heard, welcoming. Lee said that security would ensure safety, and the maids would provide warmth and comfort in the house. She continued, inviting Mr. Han to come in, and promising to set up facial recognition for automatic login. The girl also handed over a certificate of ownership. Xinwang understood that the mansion was worth 300 million, and I was afraid of looking like a fool with my mouth open if something was wrong in the documents. The cover is of good quality, just what I needed. Then the guy slammed the box shut. Lee was surprised at first, but then she understood that people like him don't check documents. The girl said that a world-famous designer was responsible for the landscaping, and everything was created especially for him. She looked him over and decided that he was modestly dressed and indifferent to money. Xinwang thought that the designer had tried hard, but for the sake of his parents, he needed to add a field and plant vegetables. Although this is an elite area, it is better to plant bitter gourd and green beans. She said that if something is not right, the designer will make changes to the landscape free of charge. The guy replied that he would think about it, and I started thinking that everything was too pretentious, and it would be difficult for my parents to get used to it. The system has changed its clothes because it does not stand still. Lee thought that even the best designer couldn't please him, and she said that he bought the pearl of the area at a young age, and the head would personally visit him. Xinwang replied that there was no point in bothering him, since he had spent almost nothing. She smiled and expressed hope that Mr. Han would contact their company again. And in her mind, Lee was outraged that he called the purchase for 300 million a trifle. I wonder what family Han is from. So they arrived. The girl invited the hero inside. Meanwhile, the heroine asked who bought this villa. Uncle Zhang replied that it was a young master, surnamed Han, and he is 20 years old. Would the lady like to know what kind of person this is? She replied that the man who bought the mansion was clearly a difficult person, and there was no point in worrying his family. Let them choose a gift. We need to pay a visit in the next few days. The sounds of firecrackers could be heard. It was quite loud, and the main character said that the Doujin Media Company is finally opening. Xinwang then said that he was especially grateful to director Gao Wen, who worked tirelessly for 3 months to prepare for the opening. The heroines shouted that they would not let them down, and they will work hard. 3 months ago, Gao asked that she not have to live stream. The hero replied that she would train newcomers, and half of their donations would go to her. Gao Wen asked, "Isn't that too much?" The girl had the best understanding of trends, audiences, and streaming settings, and we couldn't have done it without her. The guy continued that once all the processes are established and the newcomers are trained, they will be able to conduct their own streams, but she firmly decided that she wanted to help. Morning of a working day, the boss found Doujin Media accounts, and I thought, wow, how many people they have recruited. He flipped through it and laughed, puzzled by how anyone could seriously expect to break into the media giants. Did you really want to fight them? Suddenly, a voice was heard that this gang of theirs was across the road. What was the problem? And what is that grimace on his face? The man stood up, greeted his brother after the trip, and asked how his wives were doing. He replied that everything was the same as before, but some help wouldn't hurt, because it was time to show who was the king of streams. Like an obedient dog, the boss answered. Of course. At the same time, the main character was discussing what the designers were. They make models for praise, not for people. For that kind of money, his mansion must look luxurious. There was a knock on Xinwang's door. Gao Wen ran into the office and announced that it was Meow Media Group, offers their employees to conduct streams with million-plus users. The hero realized that big streamers were challenging newcomers. It's a scam as old as time. A popular streamer humiliates a newcomer on air to show who is the boss, but they were unlucky because they chose him. The guy responded by asking streamers to agree to conduct live broadcasts with Meow Media Group. Gao Wen asked if the protagonist was going to donate to newcomers. He grinned, asking if he had really been caught. The heroine wondered if those generous donations during the stream were really sent by Han Xinwang. The guy explained that money means nothing if it can't be spent wisely, but when invested in the right cause, they acquire meaning. The girl didn't understand, because spending such sums in vain was unacceptable. The hero explained that this is an investment, and then competitors will start to turn to newcomers and ask about victory. Xinwang then said that the girl lacked confidence, since she had taught herself how to present content. She shouldn't worry, the hero knows his limits. She thought that spending millions on donations would not be a problem for Xinwang. After all, he knows all the tricks of Meow Group and trusts her, which means she should trust him. The girls were discussing what to do if they agreed. They would lose. Gao Wen is coming to see them tomorrow, and told them to accept the invitations. Meanwhile, the main character was watching the stream. On the left was a girl from their company. They thanked their top donors. In the chat, everyone was discussing nothing but what the point of such a battle was. The protagonist was discussing whether to choose rosewood furniture for the mansion. The girl reported that Wang Jiang quickly lost on the joint stream, and the guys from Meow Group were clearly prepared. They have already prepared everything for an unexpected answer, so when they start... But Xinwang replied that it was still worth waiting. Let the competitors relax and revel in their victory. But he added that fighting spirit is important, because even in defeat, one must not lose heart. The boss danced with champagne because victory was already theirs. He smiled inwardly, realizing that the new star Nongran was capable of replacing Gao Wen. The hero asked why there was any need to rejoice and celebrate the victory over an unknown small company. The man reflected that despite the tens of millions received as a penalty from Gao Wen, he couldn't shake the feeling of losing a valuable asset in her. He was indignant that he had not been informed that Gao Wen worked at Doujin Media. The boss hesitated, because he couldn't fall on his face in front of his brother, and he started pouring it on, claiming that she had gotten involved with a rich man. The hero replied that as long as they were in control of the situation, nothing terrible would happen. Suddenly, they were informed that huge donations began appearing on all of their competitors' streams. Last time he won the donation battle on only one stream, but now he wins on all 10 at the same time. The hero tried to console his brother by saying that their company donates to its own streamers. He replied that they could not lose. The guy screamed, "No, no!" A new wave of donations has started again. The heroes froze in surprise, and the brother shouted, "Don't worry, you say." He declared to He Shuyu that they must win. The main character received awards. And I didn't worry about my expenses. Gao Wen didn't understand. Why continue to donate if they have already won? The guy said they hadn't seen the world of streaming, so he showed them. The heroine looked at the screen. This isn't just big streaming, it's huge. A girl should not forget her most important goal, to reach the top in the media space. She can go and praise the guys for a job well done. And yes, since the streamers from Meow Group lost, now they should remove their company's tag and put up a new one. Looking at the tablet, the main character thought, this is the room of his dreams. Some kind of purple tree, French style, who cares? That's exactly what we need. I wonder how much the system gave him for donations. $1 billion? The more he spends, the more he gets. There was a commotion in the office of a major media outlet. The employees wanted to get information about the new media company. At the meeting, their overnight success was also discussed. The streamers thanked all the donators, and they were glad that the stream was finally over. They ran up to the boss, rejoicing at the unexpected victory. They were interested in how much it cost. The main character was unhappy with the fluctuations in rewards, and the girls shouted that they hadn't thought about such success, and that they will be able to suddenly get rich. Meanwhile, the competitor's office. The man clicked the mouse. The girl asked if they should change the name, since Doujin Media actively promotes their streams, and he notes on social networks, hinting that it's time to abandon the old postfix. My brother yelled that it should have been so easy, but there were how many millions of yuan there were? 500 million. He continued, accusing the company of becoming a laughing stock because of him. The hero trembled, insisting that they had also made money, and there were no losses. The brother glared at the boss, and he threatened that if he said even a word. He continued, lamenting that if Gao Wen were still in their company, then, out of those 500 million, at least 100 would have been donated to them for sure. And all this happened literally overnight. The hero said that this is not the first time the donor has supported Gao Wen. It's all the boss's fault because he treated her inappropriately. The man awkwardly asked if his brother acted differently. Then the hero became furious, and he kicked the boss out. The girl grabbed Xinwang's sleeve and asked if it was wise to spend money like that. She calculated that out of the 500 million earned, they would only get 180. But the main character said that it was not much at all. After counting again, he continued that yes, the amount was still small. This surprised Gao Wen because the expenses were enormous. Xinwang said they surpassed leading streaming companies overnight. Therefore, he would like to thank the heroine. After all, she is passionate about her work and inspires others to do the same. And now, the path to success will become even easier. Suddenly, the phone rang. The voice on the other end of the line said he was an employee of the repair company that Mr. Han had recently contacted. After pausing the call, the guy said that I didn't have to be shy and could collect my reward for the streams. As was agreed, part of the newcomer's donations honestly goes to him. He said that his business ideology is simple. The more workers earn, the happier they become and the better they work. Entrance to Han Xinwang's mansion. Inside the mansion, orders were given to stack cement and bricks at the entrance. And do not touch the load-bearing walls. The old man's voice was heard, who came to visit his new neighbor and brought his company's products. The protagonist thought, looking at the man with impeccable manners. Xinwang wished he had a butler too. And then he turned to the hero, apologizing for the mess caused by the renovation. And because I'm all covered in dirt. The old man replied that he had come unexpectedly because they were neighbors and would see each other often. Xinwang wondered what if even butlers behaved like aristocrats. That area clearly belongs to the rich and famous. Then the main character said that neighbors should help each other in difficult situations. And he promised to visit as soon as he sorted out his affairs. It was lunchtime, and the main character finally decided to take a break. An afternoon of continuous repairs. They said on the phone that there would be a class reunion that weekend, and that the girl from school would also be coming. He thought that the alumni meeting was just an excuse to show off, since he was the worst in his class at school, and he decided that this time everything would be different. Answering, okay. The hero did not understand why he agreed so quickly. The butler reported that the young man was polite and respectful. He even took off his gloves before taking the gift. He also works with builders to build a mansion with his own hands. The girl turned around and screamed. It must be him again. Crossing her arms over her chest, the heroine said how many times she had told her brother not to bring people here. The guy became indignant, reminding her that he loved Cece and was going to marry her. She burst into tears, asking what was wrong with her. She continued, suggesting that they leave, as Mrs. Ping was clearly unhappy with her presence, and she didn't want to ruin her relationship with her sister. The guy hugged his bride and told her not to worry. Her sister had always been like this. He told his sister not to forget her grandfather's words. If she wanted to inherit, she needed to get married. And he added that she doesn't envy him because of Shishi. The heroine turned around and said that she was only 20. It was too early to think about marriage, and unlike her brother, she was not chasing an inheritance, and she's not going to marry the first person she meets. The car was parked next to an expensive restaurant. Gawain said that she was on her way to see a client, to deliver the goods, and will pick them up in about an hour. The guy was pleased with himself. After all, he still has a good feeling about it. What will make a lot of money today? Classmates pointed at Han Xinwang, asking if he had arrived in such an expensive car, and they said that he couldn't earn that much. Then they discussed that his girlfriend was obviously a rich old woman. The protagonist asked her if she was jealous that he was dating a rich woman, or she simply can't find a rich suitor for herself. The girl immediately began to be indignant. But a few seconds later, they arrived at the building. "Honey, be careful," a voice was heard from the car. Everyone trembled when they saw the goddess ride up, with the gentleman from the Ping family, who was recently shown on TV. A classmate said that Xinwang only came to the meeting because of Shi, and he teased him, asking if his rich girlfriend forbade him from communicating with other beauties. The Khan greeted the girl with a smile. She smiled and said hello in return. Then the guy turned around and said with a grin that his girlfriend was not strict, and allows you to greet others. Classmates continued to discuss Xinwang. Then the couple said goodbye. The heroine asked the guy to be careful. Classmates started throwing questions about when the wedding was, who her chosen one was, and how they managed to maintain such a relationship. Cici caught admiring glances and compliments. Then the heroes moved to the bar. They danced and screamed until the bottom. Only Xinwang sat at a distance from everyone. One of the heroes, unfortunately, was only able to acquire one floor opposite the city hall due to the crisis. They discussed the plot of land opposite the city hall, amazed at its cost, which was in the tens of millions. The girls discussed how one of them dreams of becoming a housewife after marriage, even though she doesn't understand it well. Then they started admiring the diamond on Xishi's hand. She just thought, let this bunch of poor people be jealous. The main character received a notification on his phone. Due to his many commitments, he forgot to donate the promised building to the hospital. His classmates glanced at him, noticing that he was silent and playing on his phone, assuming he's upset about Xishi's upcoming wedding. And so, one of the guys asked if Xinwang also received 5,000 a month. Or is it with overtime? The protagonist admitted that he really did work overtime. After all, the most important thing for him is that the world becomes a better place. Everyone started laughing, teasing Khan that he had gone completely crazy over the years of work. And he reasons like a child. It's better to go to a construction site, because even there you can earn more than 5,000 yuan. The heroes continued to tease Khan, assuring him that they were advising him to change jobs for his own good. Xinwang smiled, saying how kind of them. The hero said that he would leave the others to have fun, and he himself would go and supervise the construction crew. The classmate wondered where he was going. They haven't had time to mock him yet. The heroine stood in front of him and asked if he wanted to leave without paying the bill. She screamed that here you can't just open a bottle of first-class wine and leave. Maybe he will deceive them by leaving the conversation. Xinwang transferred 10,000 to them, asking if it was enough. His classmates started babbling, insisting that Khan had been saving up those 10,000 for ages, to show off and impress. The heroine appeared in front of him, saying that she would pay the bill for him. Khan chuckled, mentally saying how beautiful and kind she was. If he had not known her true nature, he would have been glad and grateful. He replied that he would refuse help. Shishi said that Xinwang's life is already difficult, but she is still worried about his character. To which the guy said that since they call her a goddess, she apparently really does imagine herself to be a deity. He also added that old classmates shouldn't wear masks, but it seems to have changed. Then he said he would pay for the food. Suddenly, the man exclaimed that this was clearly out of their budget, since they were in a VIP lounge, and the VIP client had to pay. The waiter was asked to call the chief. He answered awkwardly, "Okay." The classmate laughed. Now everyone will look at him as a laughing stock. A few minutes later, the manager arrived. The main character said that he wanted to get a VIP card. Everyone burst out laughing, claiming that Xinwang was pretending to be rich. And how much will it cost to kick all the guests out of here? Will 10 million be enough for them? The manager's eyes widened. Walking into the hall, he repeated, "Yes, 10 million. And he doesn't need a VIP card, he just wants to eat in silence." The man thought about it, because it was clear from his clothes that the guy had no money. Approaching the guest, he said that such jokes were too much. In fact, the black bank card is considered the most expensive and unique, unlike the gold one. The classmate chuckled, noticing that the map was all scratched and looked damaged. And the girl said that if he wanted to show off his money, he should have bought at least a black card. Everyone started laughing, saying that the hero had things to do, and now he was showing off. It will be so funny when Xinwang can't pay. The waitress stated that the payment had been successful. The manager shouted that. Nobody could believe it. The main character asked if he could eat normally. The man replied that everything was at his service. He said that it was time for the guests to leave the establishment. One of the heroes said that Han Xinwang was behaving inappropriately, since they were all former classmates. The girl said that many of them, famous personalities in the city. The protagonist said that he is not afraid of making enemies. Xinwang said that if any of his former classmates could pay more, he would leave. The heroine said that it would be better to simply go somewhere else. A guy came up to them and said, 10 million and 1 yuan, and for him to get out of here. After all, there is no one more important to him than his girlfriend. The classmates immediately started babbling. That Xinwang doesn't have the strength to compete with a family of magnates. The protagonist thought he raised it by 1 yuan to make fun of him. And, Ping family, it sounded familiar, as if he had heard it from the butler. He chuckled. Did he really have no more savings? The girl asked him not to say that, pretending to be kind. But this is a dispute only between him and his classmates. Xinwang couldn't even imagine that some rich man would come and help him earn even more. And he added another 5 million. The manager couldn't believe his luck. He said he would add another yuan. The main character raised to 20. The guy raised again by 1. The girl realized that marrying the right man was the secret to success. At the same time, Han added 30 million yuan. Mr. Ping's classmates supported him, but Xixi noticed that something was wrong and didn't want to be humiliated. He was surprised at how much money was paid for food. He planned to beat Xinwang, but there are so many millions, the hero doesn't print money. The waitress handed the gentleman a card. The manager began counting down from 3 to 1. And if there are no more counter-offers, then they have a winner. The hero thought about it, because he was outraged that the pathetic beggars wanted him to pay for everything, although Xixi was not even a member of the Ping family. Xinwang asked why the rich man didn't want to add another yuan. They called him on the phone and he said he had to answer. The main character said, okay. Pin replied, yes, and they asked him what he spent that money on, maybe even on a share of the restaurant. The hero irritably replied that it was none of her business. She doesn't care, but her grandfather does. Pin was surprised that the old man was really keeping an eye on their finances. The sister said that she was heading to the restaurant and was now entering the elevator. The guy got angry because she was following him. And if Zhao finds out what it was all spent on, the protagonist declared that it was time to place a bet. He replied that everyone here was sick in the head. A classmate said that such actions were a disgrace to his family. The manager stopped Pin, asking if he understood correctly that he was no longer participating in the auction. The guy said to write to his secretary about this. The Khan was bored, he was counting on a much greater reward, but in the end he received less than he hoped for. The friend screamed, begging Cece to intervene, because if she did nothing, it would be a real shame. She knew better than to come to the meeting that evening. She hugged Pina, saying that so many people were looking at them. The hero hit her, shouting that because of such a slut, he was humiliated and there would be no wedding. Cece began to cry, remembering how he himself promised that they would be together forever, live long and die on the same day. And now he is ready to part with her for some measly 30 million. He said it wasn't about the 30 million, but about the family's shame, and added that she was beautiful, with good genes. But he didn't love her. The manager reported that he would now throw everyone out. Pin warned that this was not the end. The sister was heard asking what they were doing here, and she asked her brother for an explanation. The heroine stated that their family is contributing 200 million to the development of the restaurant. Everyone was worried about who would win now. The girl asked to vacate the room to talk with Khan. Classmates were surprised that Mrs. Ping herself came to discuss something with Xinwang. This simply cannot happen. The main character would like to get to know the lady better. The manager asked everyone to go to the exit. And my brother's grandfather is already waiting. Everyone's gaze shifted, but the heroine ran after Pin. She asked not to leave her. Sister replied that if Xixi wants to live in this city without problems, she better stay away from the Ping family. The guy just sighed. The man immediately ordered that fresh food be brought to them. And now it's time to talk, and Xinwang will be happy to talk to the lady. She admitted that the butler had recently brought him a present. She continued, apologizing for the misunderstanding, and explaining that since childhood, her family had asked her to look after her hot-tempered brother. She apologized for her brother's inappropriate behavior, asking him not to take his words to heart. The girl explained that she bought out the share in the restaurant not because of reproaches, and, to avoid rumors about the brother's unreasonableness and the family's weakness, she said that she hoped that Mr. Han would be reasonable, since the Ping family was in his debt, and drank a glass of wine. The main character replied that they were neighbors, and neighbors should help each other. The sister replied that they could sit there for a couple of hours, and then go their separate ways. The guy was surprised. It seemed the lady was not what she appeared to be at first glance. He offered to finish the food, but the heroine replied that she was not hungry. Xinwang began to gobble up all the food. And then he was surprised that the lady was not going to just watch him. She chuckled. Xinwang has a good appetite. Something tells him that something strange is on the girl's mind. And he asked if there really wasn't the slightest topic for conversation. She was surprised, because this was their first meeting, and it was difficult to immediately find a topic for conversation. The protagonist agrees, but being watched while you eat is too much. Shin-wang apologized and said he needed to respond. It was Gao Wen, and just in time. A few minutes later, he said that a friend would come to them now. The heroine asked if the food here was tasty, and then I was surprised why there were only 2 heroes. Mrs. Ping apologized to them, and she said that it was time for her to go. It's strange, she left just at the moment Gao appeared. The heroine asked if Shin-wang had eaten anything, and where the others were. It's a long story, the guy said. Half an hour later, Gao Wen was already surprised by the story. He also doesn't know when to stop spending money. He replied that if she continued to work with him, she would get used to spending large sums of money. The heroine said that the issue of live broadcasts is still being discussed, and the commissions are higher than expected. Shin-wang noticed that she had such talent. But if it weren't for her family, Gao Wen would never have agreed to this. She replied that she was sincerely grateful to Shin-wang for appearing in her life, and helped to cope with sudden difficulties. Khan said that this is just the beginning. There will be more to come, more accomplishments, so we need to drink to this, and of course for them, and also for the future. Shin-wang said that the food was worth finishing because it was expensive. A tall, light-colored building. People passing by admired the expensive car. The girls stared at her with their mouths open. The guys were sad that they couldn't afford it. Suddenly, the owner of this car got out of the car. The ladies squealed, "Just look at this handsome man." Seeing Gao Wen, he said, "What a coincidence," and he offered to give her a ride. But the heroine said that she still had things to do. Zhang insisted, but the girl refused. He was outraged that he had tried so hard to be her first, and she had repaid him with betrayal. Why did he even buy such a car? At that moment, a scooter pulled up to them. Shin-wang asked if this was Gao Wen's friend. The girl introduced the hero as Jian Wenchen, her main donor during her time at Miao Group. The protagonist extended his hand, introducing himself as his colleague Gao Wen, and he offered the girl to go. Sitting down in the passenger seat, she said that it was time for her to go. The heroes drove away, leaving the guy behind. He couldn't believe it. It was just a moped. Zhang started to get angry, wondering what he should do with the car now. While his wife is on a business trip, he must have some fun, and he invited another girl to a restaurant. A long traffic jam formed on the road. The heroes quickly got through the traffic jam on a moped. Judging by the map, they are almost there. Shin-wang stated that they have crayfish on the menu. The heroes parked near the building. It looked pretty solid, and they have already brought food. "It's time to swoop in," the heroes declared. "How could we do without drinking?" Having said the toast, they drank. Kyo appeared at the threshold. Seeing the heroes, she suggested going to another restaurant. Then Zhang also saw the couple. He mentally became angry. How could Gao Wen refuse him for the sake of this jerk? And he quickly hugged his girlfriend. Together they went to the table. The hero declared that he would become a top donor for all her girlfriends, and each one will be ready for anything. Q grinned, confident that she would soon take away her main donor. Gao Wen wanted to warn her friend about such a goat, but the main character replied that it was not worth getting involved. The girl offered to clean crayfish for the guy. He agreed. She began to feed the hero. In a drawn-out manner, women's screams were heard, asking what he was doing here. He started to run away, as if he didn't understand who they were talking about. But his wife grabbed his hand, asking what he was doing there, having fun. Zhang said he could explain everything. The guy thought that if he just pulled the wool over her eyes and said a couple of compliments, she would easily forgive him. She yelled at Q. Didn't she know that the guy had a wife? The girl felt awkward because all this was happening in front of Gao Wen. The wife screamed, outraged that every month she buys him watches, cars, and gives him money. But instead of gratitude, he takes a mistress and has affairs behind her back. Zhang wanted to explain everything, but she slapped Q, calling her a slut. The hero fell to his knees, desperately swearing his innocence to Lin. The heroine thought that Wenhen was just a gigolo because he made all the generous donations from his wife's card. He swore that he loved his wife, and how will the guy prove that Chu seduced him? At this moment, Zhang hit the girl, and he started yelling, blaming her for everything, screaming that she was constantly pestering him. He was angry that she was bothering him, and even in the morning she didn't give him any peace, reminding him about the meeting. The girl said in tears that it was not true, and she didn't even know that Zhang had a wife. What a two-faced guy this guy is, Gao Wen thought. At this moment, Xin Wang picked up a plate of food. Zhang shouted that this idiot was here, but the main character threw a plate at his face. Kyo was surprised by this, no less than the hero himself. Zhang started screaming about how much it hurt, how his eyes hurt. His wife asked if he was sick at all. Khan declared angrily that they were two peas in a pod, but the heroine understood that the guy was right. Zhang shouted that he would soon be finished. The guy chuckled. What was he going to do? Q thought as she looked at Xin Wang. She had previously thought of him as just a braggart, but now, having learned that he had intervened specifically for her sake, she began to doubt. After breaking the bottle, Zhang told the hero to prepare for death, and he shouted at him to go to hell. But can't Xin Wang stand up for itself? The Khan said that since she was such a rich lady, she could have chosen a better gentleman. Not the one who lies, squanders her money and acts like a dog. The wife thought, this guy is cute. Zhang didn't understand where such a beggar could get so much strength. Kyo thanked him for his help. After all, she was very pleased. The guy shouted at Lin, let the main character be kicked out of here. But his wife asked him not to whine and to shut up. And she asked Xin Wang for his phone number. A friend started running after the heroes, and as a thank you, she would like to treat Han to dinner. He replied that it was not necessary. She would also like to apologize for her past actions. He replied that he was simply irritated by Jian, and that he was not trying to help at all. And they hurried to the office with Gao Wen. Dating a guy like that is like winning the lottery. And if Xin Wang and Gao Wen are friends, Q has every chance. At this time, Zhang shouted to his wife that he could not live without her, and she screamed, blaming what had happened on the one who, in her words, was a nobody, aching in her legs. She demanded that the money be asked from him and let him get away from her. After this, the wife walked towards her mistress, but she didn't say anything. She just chuckled. The guy thought that the relationship with Lin seemed to have come to an end, but Chu remained. She is famous and rich, and he is handsome, which means he has a chance. He started running towards Chu, but she abruptly stepped aside. The girl responded sharply, threatening Zhang, that if he bothers her even once more, she will call the police. There were shouts that the guy was wrong. Gao Wen noticed that the protagonist was not holding back in the restaurant. Xin Wang replied that from his very first encounter with Weinchen, he realized that he was only capable of causing trouble. The girl thanked him for his kindness, and she started talking about work, proposing to implement new technologies. Gao Wen then moved on to the topic of the show, and how they only had enough money for one more. But the protagonist admitted that it was too risky to spend the company's budget, and they need money in their lives to spend it. The system gave him a reward, and Xin Wang was glad that he managed to react in time. He said that it was time for him to go home. The repairs were idle, and he advised not to stay late at work. Shouts of abuse could be heard from the yard. The main character was surprised who decided to make a scandal in the middle of the night. It was Ping and Shishi. The hero shouted at her to get out of here. Otherwise, he will simply call security. The girl didn't understand why. Then they handed her a handkerchief. Looking up, she saw Han Xinwang. She asked if the hero came here to make fun of her. But the guy replied that he was just passing by. Then Cici asked if he was visiting someone. Xinwang replied that he had recently started renovations in his new house and had come to see how things were going. The heroine froze. It turns out this is his mansion. Yes, it's amazing how Khan was able to not only establish connections in the few years after graduation, and all this despite the fact that during his studies he looked like a real beggar. This transformation really raises questions. She burst into tears, wondering if Xinwang was angry with her. The hero asked why, but in my heart I knew that she had already started something. Cici babbled, remembering how he had tried to court her for a long time, but she had not paid attention. At the class reunion, they made fun of him, and she thought he was angry. But now I understand, he doesn't hold a grudge. The main character replied that it was okay. Xinwang was rewarded again for changing himself. Hugging him, the heroine said that she still had a lot to tell, and hoped he would listen. He shouted that he simply came up and gave her a handkerchief, and if she thinks that he still has feelings, she is wrong. Now the heroine is just a nobody to him. The heroine could not answer anything, and the guy thought it would be better to come down from heaven to earth. She will become a simple girl, and not the one who considers herself better than others. The gates slammed shut behind Xinwang. The door handle creaked open. Cici appeared on the threshold of the dark apartment. She walked slowly around the room, and she lay down on the sofa. The phone rang. It was Lily with urgent news. She asked to get down to business. Then they exclaimed on the phone that CC doesn't represent. After all, that same subscriber from the streams made himself known again. And the amounts are simply enormous. And that same donator is Jin Wang. How did Lily even know it was him? She gave reasons, suggesting that Xinwang was the son of rich people. But that's not the most important thing. After these words, Cece threw the phone on the floor. She said that Xinwang had sincerely loved her for 4 years, but she did not notice the man who could provide for her forever. The girl burst into tears, convincing herself that she was pretty, had a good figure, and should charm everyone, and she decided to awaken old feelings in him. After all, it's not only guys who have to chase girls. The main character looked in the mirror, and he understood that he was far from having an ideal figure. Sitting down on the bed, he said that the worst thing about money is health problems, so you need sports, or maybe just equip a gym at home, and call a personal trainer here. Xinwang clicked on the screen and found the right room. Suddenly, something shone in front of the main character. The voice stated that the system had detected the remorse and regret the girls had caused, which was necessary for the upgrade. Wow, it turns out the system can be updated. Q has 50% regret, while Shishi has 80%. The system then continued that activating the regret module would grant the owner 5 points for strength, intelligence, and charisma. And Xinwang directed everything into force. It worked immediately. The effect is obvious. Yeah, I should have updated it earlier, but now the main character has already bought 20 season tickets. Having fallen onto the bed, he decided that the money had already been spent. And I decided that it was time to buy my parents new furniture. Meanwhile, the hero arrived at the gym. The hostess asked if the gentleman had come to training. He replied that he had purchased 20 season tickets. The girl replied that she would check everything now, and the hall looks quite prestigious. The heroine announced that private lessons had been purchased instead of a membership, but a club card was required for training. And now, as part of the promotion, when you purchase it, you get 3 lessons for free. He thought that he had chosen a luxury trainer for 2,000 yuan an hour, but they still didn't give him membership. The girl asked if Mr. Han agreed. He decided to give up the purchased classes. Xinwang explained that he paid 80,000 yuan for 20 training sessions, and if he were the owner of the gym, he would give such clients free membership. The hostess can only find his boss, and bring him here. The hero thought that reasonable spending was acceptable even in the amount of 100 million, but not with this attitude towards clients. A guy came up to them and said, "So this is this gentleman." And then Han Xinwang was surprised. The protagonist exclaimed, "Does Wang Tailan really own a gym? He studied with Xinwang, is very rich, and finished his studies long ago. Is Khan really worried that he just wasted his money? It's only 80,000, a mere trifle. By the way, someone works with him. They haven't seen each other for a long time." He shouted, "Beauty, come here." The heroine asked what happened, dear, and she was surprised to see Han Xinwang. Ring, a list of characteristics has been added for Gao Yang. Gao Yang, 24 years old, regret level 0, and also height and weight. The main character grinned. A complete list, everything you need. It turns out that in order to increase the level of regret, he needs to do something. During her school days, the girl asked not to give in to temptation, seeing how a love letter was handed to him. He asked not to worry, because he doesn't like anyone, except for one girl, that is, her. She asked if Xinwang could continue to do his homework for him. He thought she was in love, but it turned out to be a scam for idiots. He said he would accept the gift, but it wasn't very important to their relationship, and people might get the wrong idea. She said that she would accept the gift since it had already been purchased, but this did not obligate her to anything, and the relationship would remain the same. Wai received a good gift, but it should not be overestimated, and others may misunderstand it. Gao Yang has a wealthy family, so spending money to get her attention is a bad idea, and Wai Tailan was one of the school bullies, if you think about it. Although she has a rich family, money is never a bad thing, and Gao Yang is no exception. The girl asked what was wrong, if there was trouble. Khan decided to make Wai Tailan show his insignificance and destroy her idea of cool muscle men. The muscle man grinned, because for office planktons, even a ride on the subway is already a workout. The protagonist said that such training is not enough, so he will buy a year's membership and continue if he likes it. The guy replied that if Han Xinwang didn't have money, then there was no point in pretending to be rich and skimping on food, because without it, training was useless. The jock thought, because Xinwang is still in love with Gao Yang, but she already belongs to someone else. The hero said that he had been caught, and since the truth was revealed, he asked for a small discount. He said that he and Gao Yang were old good friends, and friends should help each other. The coach replied that for the sake of his beloved, he would give her a 60% discount on membership. The main character said that he would definitely repay the debt, and he laughed at what happened. Meanwhile, the muscle man told Zhang Qi to train Han, while he himself went to work with Gao Yang. The girl thought that he had a pretty face, but he was too thin and had little muscle. The main character replied that he wouldn't be able to train today. He answered as you say. They began to discuss that Xinwang had come simply to save money. The guy thought that he should let them make fun of him behind his back, but he will have the last laugh. He walked up to the moped, and, putting on the helmet, he asked the system to show his characteristics. Han Xinwang is 24 years old, a Scorpio, and 179 feet tall. The system said that the owner will not become too big. He didn't think the system could play such jokes. And then he asked to open the Shishi and Chu panel. His strength is 23. You need to add 17 to make him equal to the average person. He decided to choose CC. Maybe they will give you an additional bonus. The app told you to create the effect of invisible makeup so that everyone would mistake it for natural beauty. Men won't be able to take their eyes off it. Everyone you meet will fall in love from the first second. And you will certainly become a beauty. Suddenly the phone rang. The girl thought that Xinwang was reading her thoughts, and she wanted to call him. Regret increased by 1%. Han was surprised, and this was before Shishi answered the call. It looks like she'll jump into his arms herself. He thought that he fell in love with Cici only because she resembled Gao Yang, but due to the showdown and the system, he completely forgot about her. Xinwang realized that all this time she had not loved him and had not noticed his efforts. The heroine asked what Xinwang had. The guy smiled because he wanted to check something, and she was delighted, thinking that he had fallen in love again and wanted to invite her on a date. But the main character wanted to remind the girl to return the scarf. Shisai was confused about what he was talking about. Then the system prompted the owner to hang up quickly, and she gave him a reward of 666 yuan, advising him to think about his behavior. The heroine didn't understand, because no one in life would ask for the scarf back. He was probably just too shy to ask her out on a date. Yes, I just decided to say something nonsensical instead of calling out. He always acted like this during his studies, so you should just forget about the conversation. CC blushed, or maybe it's some kind of fetish, and he wants her to bring him her bodily fluids. The girl thought that she shouldn't have thrown away the scarf. Maybe take a napkin, because he might not recognize it, and the heroine began to collect her bodily fluids. The heroine's regret increased again by 1%. Khan remembered an incident from school when one of his strange classmates asked him to bring Cici a towel, having learned that she takes a bath and wipes absolutely any part of her body with it. The classmate jumped for joy and licked his lips like a dog. In the coffee shop, Xinwang discussed how the system had begun to give out less money and more courtship tasks. So it's time to get into business and set up a stable income. An artifact from the Zhou dynasty has been put up for auction in the West. The guy decided to get down to serious business. At that moment, Cici's voice was heard behind the hero. She noticed Xinwang keeping an eye on the auction item and thought he was really rich. Sitting down on a chair, she apologized for being a little late, and she handed the box to the main character. The guy said that his old feelings for Cici had not been revived, and noticed her makeup and lip gloss, and also, why bring a scarf in such an expensive box? She started to get angry, and her regret increased by 1%. The main character began to press harder with words. The girl burst into tears, and her regret increased by another %. Xinwang smiled, seemingly in tears, and the level of regret was growing, actress. Cici stated that she always uses such cosmetics, was outraged by his behavior, and did not understand why he wanted to meet. The guy admitted that he just wanted to make fun of her. She treated him exactly the same way. The heroine ran away, and the level of regret increased. The protagonist laughed. The dethroned goddess. After all, she used to say that he was just sucking up to everyone, and if it weren't for homework, she wouldn't have paid attention to him. Xinwang said that regret was only a small part of what he went through. The guy channeled all his regret points into strength. He felt the power coursing through his body, and I even wanted to run a marathon to release my energy. The next day, the main character went to the gym. He suggested adding more weight, since the barbell didn't even weigh 50 kilograms. The trainer explained that this was only the first lesson, and first it was necessary to assess the level of preparation. Is this really his way of implying that Khan is not strong enough? The guy explained that the coach was needed for backup, and let him increase his weight to 150 kilograms. The hero said that even he had a hard time working with such weight. Xinwang said he would try 200 then. After investing points in strength, such weight is nothing. The hero got angry. Why was Khan acting tough here? The coach was indignant that he didn't even know what it meant to lift 200 kilograms, and he demanded that they sign an agreement waiving the gym's liability in the event of injury. The guy asked not to make a mountain out of a molehill, but the coach kept shouting that it was a big responsibility. In his mind, he was angry at people who come into the hall and pretend to be anyone, not understanding what they are dealing with. Voices were heard from behind. What was happening? The trainer explained that Khan had decided to lift 50 kilograms and managed 200, although the load should be increased gradually. The main character suggested making a bet. Khan suggested that if he succeeded, they would pay for his training and the club, and if not, he will buy 100 lessons. The trainer thought about it, because at first he had asked for a discount, but now he had suddenly decided to pay for 100 lessons. He said that he would pay for 100 lessons at once, and if he won, the money would be returned to the card. The girl didn't understand how skinny Jinwang was, and decided to argue with the coach, and she suggested trying 100 kilograms first. But Khan asked if they were making a bet. The hero replied that so be it. But first, let him just try to lift the barbell from the racks. If he doesn't succeed, then he can forget about the bench press. The coach thought he was an idiot because he had no idea what it meant to lift such weights, and he promised to eat his own shit if he succeeded. The bar didn't even budge, he said. Maybe they should stop. Suddenly, the guy lifted the barbell. The coach's eyes nearly popped out of his head. The counting began. 1, 2, 3. The guy was glad that he didn't say anything about the shit out loud. The skinny guy bench-pressed 200 kilograms in one go, surprising the girl more than Talon. The hero put the barbell back in place, and since he succeeded, let them return the money. It is waiting to be sent to the card. There was a call from Chu. As if he were a mind reader, you can't keep a lady waiting. The heroine was surprised. Did he really manage to get himself a girlfriend? At least she was pretty. The heroes arrived at the restaurant. He looked very respectable. Q thanked Xinwang with a smile for the invitation, glad that they could sit together peacefully, despite the past. The heroine didn't understand whether he was pretending to be disinterested in order to look cool. Last time he said that he didn't need her, but now he invited her to a restaurant. Meow Group lost more than half of its major donors, and streamers' income fell to 1/10. The main character asked if everything was really that bad. Q admitted that streamers are forced to terminate contracts and pay penalties. After all, popularity is short-lived, and you need to earn it within a couple of years. When the girl thanked him, Xinwang understood that it was all because of money. But with such greedy girls, it's easy to get by. Following a simple plan, the main character said that he had a request. She beamed, saying that she was ready for anything. He continued by noting that there were fewer streamers on Doujin Media than expected. The hero wanted her to, but their conversation was interrupted by a phone call. The guy picked up the phone, and Q said that urgent matters had come up, and they would talk about everything later. The girl thought for a moment, deciding that he probably considered her the ideal candidate. And I'm ready to take you into my company. Q's regret increased by 5%. The main character was proud of himself. The girl's thoughts continued. Zhan Lingxin paid 2 million yuan to terminate the contract. But she is more experienced and smarter, which means Xinwang will definitely choose her. She was worried, because if she had established a relationship with him earlier, she would already be working at Douyin Media. Now she compares herself to the unknown Zhan Qingqin, even though she is younger than Gao Wen and believes in her chances. The girl started whispering. She came, quieter. Qiu didn't understand what was going on. The brother abruptly opened the door, shouting for her to go into the office, and he started yelling, accusing her of seducing a major donor. And now he's angry, refusing to donate and threatening to file a complaint. The girl explained that she became a victim of the situation because she was asked to seduce the donor. The man shouted that he didn't care what anyone else said. He needed results, and although he wouldn't make her pay for the damages, fines for violations in the contract will be doubled since she still won't be able to cover the full amount. The heroine noticed a strange movement in the corridor. They explained to her that many people were leaving their jobs. She also added that streamers almost immediately switched to Doujin Media because they pay well there, not just pennies. They added that one had already earned enough to buy a house downtown because Doujin Media's director is generous and respects his employees. Clutching the phone, Chu was angry. Did she really have to go to the bottom with this company? She was determined not to miss the chance. Even with doubled fines, she could still pay the penalty. She understood that Sylvan appreciated her talents, but it seemed he just wanted to lure her into his company. She had already managed to forget that he had become a businessman and wanted to spite Meow Group, but she decided that it was even beneficial to her, and she would tell him everything herself. A week later, Chu Xinyu heard that the vacancies at Doujin Media had closed. The director said that it was due to the influx of newcomers. Recruitment to the company is temporarily suspended. She gritted her teeth because she had just paid the penalty, and the recruitment has already ended. The heroine's regret increased by 20%. The sun's rays illuminated the White House. Sitting on the sofa, Chu thought that perhaps she should have waited for the contract with Xinyang. Before leaving Meow Group, she was now left with nothing. Her brother told her that he was not going to let her go, quietly. He threatened her with connections and promised to ruin her reputation if she went to competitors. Q cried out that she had paid the penalty. The man is very happy about this, but it will not allow you to go to competitors. The heroine didn't understand what to do. Gao Wen reported that Chu Xinyu had called and wanted to meet, despite the fact that they didn't want to accept her before. The girl may not be very knowledgeable about business, but she would be a good employee. The main character said, okay, and he will meet her in a cafe. Xinwang thought that ignoring Chu Xinyu for a few days was a good idea. Now she was like a different person. She began to babble that she had previously been arrogant and dreamed of being accepted, but now she understood her behavior. And Chu Xinyu quietly asked for a chance. She said that she was ready to work even for 10 to 20,000 a month. The guy said he wasn't putting her down. He'd seen her streams on Meow Group, but he won't be able to push it to the top of his company, and Xinwang accepted her anyway, explaining that there are no bribes at Doujin Media. He explained that there are streamer ranks within the company. The girl realized that she would show herself, and she agreed. The guy asked to call Gao Wen. As she thought about it, Chu Xinyu imagined how things might have turned out if she hadn't been so rude to Xinwang. On the way out, she said that she had behaved arrogantly, but realized her mistakes and thanked her for her help. The guy is glad that the heroine understood this. The girl's regret increased again by 5%. He regrets that people have to experience everything on their own skin in order to understand. The protagonist invested points into strength again. Now he's mega strong. And now it's time to show off Gao Yang, and to Wai Tailan what Xinwang is capable of. The main character came into the hall and realized how excited he was. After all, now it will be decided who will envy whom. The guy decided to start his workout with cardio. Cao Yang wondered if she was imagining things, that Xinwang became energetic, tall and muscular in a week. Thailand offered his candidacy for the coach, and he said he would do a cardio set, 50 minutes of jogging, and a strength block. Wai Thailand continued that Xinwang has strength, but without endurance, the path to strength training is closed. The protagonist admitted that he would try, although an hour-long run was new to him. Zadira thought that if Khan could lift 200 kilograms, it meant he had a lot of strength. But with endurance, everything is more complicated. Let him not show off in front of Gao Yang. He held the girl by the shoulders. The heroine suggested coming over and looking at Xinwang. The coach didn't understand what the hell this guy was up to. He kept running. Witalan watched silently from the side. The girls began to babble, admiring the guy's figure, his muscles and the fact that he's been running for an hour. One girl gasped. After all, she saw the sweat running down his muscular chest. Then the coach turned to his girlfriend. Gao Yang admired Xinwang for running for an hour. He's so cool, she said. The girl's regret increased by 20%. The protagonist thought he was right. Gao Yang only values athleticism and strength in men. Talon thought that Xinwang was obviously doing this on purpose, a show-off, because it was impossible to run for 50 minutes without getting tired. The coach said that after such a workout, it was worth taking a break. He said that he could only allocate 2 hours for training. That's why he asks for no breaks. Vi thought that since the client wants strict conditions, it's worth loading him up even more because training is paid hourly. Pathetic brat, thought the coach. There was no such insolence in my school days. He admitted that he bribed the bandits to carry out an attack on Khan. Then he appeared and saved Xinwang, after which Gao Yang fell in love with him. The protagonist asked if they continued to practice. Although, given Vi's reluctance to train him, perhaps Xinwang will go alone. The coach realized that the guy had come to show off to Gao Yang and noticed that he hadn't been training his legs at all. Then Talon stated that a special program had been prepared for Khan from the first day, and since the legs are the foundation of the body, they will also need to be trained. It's time for them to hit the gym. He laughed, anticipating making Khan look weak. And again, he will appear stronger in the eyes of Gao Yang. Time passed. The coach became more and more surprised, and the main character said that he had been training for a long time, but his legs were not tense at all, and he suggested adding weight. Gao Yang's regret increased by 30%. The girl ran after Xinwang. The hero wondered where she was, and she asked Khan if he would come to training tomorrow. The words echoed in Talon's head. Then she said that they hadn't added each other as friends yet, and she suggested doing it. He scanned the QR code, and he began to leave the hall. This surprised the coach even more because she was smiling, and also looking at this poor guy's account. He asked why she added him as a friend, to which Gao Yang replied that he was an important client. The coach yelled that this was not so. Han Xinwang had been chasing her for a long time. She should know about it. She said that if Talon was jealous of her, he should say so directly. And he doesn't make passive-aggressive attacks. The elevator went up to the 7th floor, and the girl's regret has already increased by 5%. The protagonist understood that as long as Tai Lan continued to make mistakes, he could do nothing, and Gao Yang herself would begin to regret it. When there is a struggle for attention, the one who is worse tries to attract more of it, burying himself. Sometimes inaction is more effective than effort. It's worth waiting for the right moment, and small efforts will bear fruit. Meanwhile, Shishi was left with 1% regret. She asked Xinwang if he was free. The hero replied that he was busy. The girl said, "All busy, yes." The protagonist said that it depended on her proposal. Cece replied that she wanted to invite him to dinner. Xinwang replied that she had realized it too late. Today is a work day, and he doesn't go to restaurants. But for some reason, the level of regret does not rise. Cece was surprised that he hung up so easily. The hairdresser said that Mrs. Hairdo was not finished, but she no longer saw any point in it. The door swung open. Falling onto the bed, the girl screamed that she hated Khan. Meanwhile, in the protagonist's office, Carwin wondered if the boss had caught a cold. He said no and asked what kind of files they were. "This is auction data," Gao replied. Leafing through the folder, the main character said to register them for this one. There will be many foreign celebrities in this auction. He said that they would take the cultural heritage from under their noses and that they were obliged to bargain for the relics. Gawain said she would go and arrange everything. The door slammed behind her. The protagonist's phone started ringing, but he smoothly hung up. Cece got angry because he didn't even answer the call. She didn't understand what she had said or done wrong, and was afraid that he would stop answering his calls. "It's so annoying," the girl screamed. After all, he doesn't even understand what the hero is thinking about. Exhaling, she wondered if she had really missed her last chance. The main character started getting calls again. He pressed the cancel button, and he went inside the building. And Cece didn't understand why everything was like this again. She screamed why. Koyong told him that Xinwang was late, to which he replied that he was at an important meeting. The heroine handed him the bottle. Yang thought that Wai Tai Lan didn't care about her, and didn't have time because he had so many things to do. But Xinwang, in her opinion, was different, attentive at school. But now, after some time, she is disappointed, thinking that he has forgotten his feelings. The main character refused the bottle as a gift and decided to pay for it. The girl was upset, thinking that he had forgotten about her feelings. Despite its attractiveness and popularity, the coach was angry, accusing Han of having a crush on Gao Yang, promising to be even more active with her. Dynamic breaths were heard. This was the main character. The girls were chatting about whether the guy had a girlfriend. They admired his appearance and envied the one who got him. Yang asked the guy what muscle group he was training, and he replied, his legs. After all, legs are important. She was delighted. Did the guy really notice how she admired him last time? The protagonist admitted that he often sits in the office, which causes his legs to go numb, and that exercise helps improve blood circulation. The heroine didn't understand whether Xinwang wanted to get rid of her, or invite her to train together, but at that moment she was hugged. It was Talon. The girl got angry. Why did he come here? She pushed the guy away, saying that they were at work, and she screamed that constant distractions were interfering with clients' training. Gao Yang's regret increased by 5%. The main character said that they should sort it out, but the coach shouldn't forget about training. He grinned to himself, glad that he had become the third wheel in their relationship, and blamed only them for it. The coach didn't understand what was wrong with Yang today. Was she on her period? She said, let him shout about it throughout the entire hall so that everyone knows. And she shouted for him to let her in. Let him not talk or approach her. He's annoying, she said. The guy felt sad from these words. He looked at the guy with fury, blaming him for what happened and threatening him with reprisals. Talon started quickly dialing some number, asked to come to the gym for some business. The girl stopped the main character, suggesting having dinner together. He wondered whether he should pretend to be busy or accept the invitation to assess her behavior. She knew that Xinwang had not forgotten his feelings from school. Let him act untouchable, but inside he's seething. The protagonist wondered if regret should have grown by now. She doesn't have as many percentages as Shishi and Chu. Squeezing the bottle, the coach said he would show Gao Yang what a non-entity he is, and he will prove his masculinity. The girl had already changed, saying that she was ready, and Tylan was talking to someone on the phone, coordinating that the couple was already leaving, and he is waiting for good news. Gao Yang knows a good restaurant and they can go there. The main character began to open the car door, when suddenly it was slammed shut. The man asked the boy if he knew whose parking space it was. He asked whose it was. Behind them, Yang shouted out what they were doing. The man asked if it was the lady's car, and she said yes. He replied that he had noticed this place in the morning. She asked how she was supposed to know that the public parking spot was supposed to be his. The main character realized that this man was specifically looking for a reason, and he started yelling at the girl. Suddenly, Shinwang said that the slicked-back hair should better let the girl go. Looking at the guy, he asked if he really thought of himself as a hero. The Khan replied that everything was correct, and he would save this lady. The man laughed, saying that some people would be crawling away with broken legs. Gao Yang said that she would call Wai Tai Lan now. The protagonist shouted that it was too late. Yang was surprised that. The man said that forgiveness could be achieved by kneeling before him, and he promised to have mercy on them. But Jinwang repeated that it was too late, and he hit the stranger with all his might. He began to skillfully fight off the crowd. This amazed the girl even more. The main character asked why the boy didn't fight, to which he asked if he could take the boys to the hospital. The heroine asked if Shinwang had done martial arts. Khan replied that he was just swinging his fists, and anyway, they were going to have dinner. Cao Yang wondered if the guy had always fought so well, and her regret increased by 20%. The main character grinned and thanked the men for such help. The building was illuminated by bright rays of the sun. The heroes were already sitting at the table. The sommelier showed the guests a 30-year-old wine and invited them to enjoy the drink, and he began to carefully pour it into the glass. Gao Yang said that without him, she doesn't know what would have happened, and she suggested raising a glass to them. She said that she had heard from classmates about his work in a large company and asked about his successes. Shinwang admitted with a smile that he had been unemployed for several months. The girl exclaimed that it was terrible, but was glad of his calmness. The girl's regret is equal to 70%. This work was real slavery, so he's glad. And I thought that with Gao Yang, I needed to be 70% sincere and 30% calm. She admitted that Khan is quite honest. He replied that there was no point in hiding anything. Gao Yang's regret increased by 5%. Shinwang admitted that the years he spent in love with her were the best years of his youth, and now he will test his charm skills. She didn't understand what had changed the main character so much. We should look forward and not focus on the past. Therefore, Shinwang wishes her and Tai Lan a happy marriage. She was indignant, stating that they were only dating and there was no talk of marriage. It seems Khan has said too much. The hero said that he needed to go to the restroom. Gao Yang received a call. Taking the phone, she saw Wai Tai Lan's contact. She became indignant, reminding him that she had already spoken about her intention to treat Jinwang to something at a restaurant. The hero asked if everything was okay with the girl. Talon was indignant that the guys didn't stop Shinwang. She asked if he was worried about her or afraid that she would leave him for another. Vi shouted that he was confident in their strong relationship, asking them not to imagine anything unnecessary. Cao Yang told him not to distract her. The hostess handed the card to the main character. Gao Yang's regret increased by 10%. I wonder who helped him like that. The girl was angry, suspecting Thailand of strange behavior and wondering what was going on. Shinwang exclaimed that he was back, and the heroine was a little scared, and he thought about the phone that appeared on the table after he left, and realized that it was Wai Tai Lan who had come to the rescue again. We should have dumped all the work on him from the very beginning. The boy said that at school they called her Yanyan, and asked if it was time for her to take a rest. Gao Yang's regret increased by 2%. He sees that the girl is not feeling well, and he offered to take her. They are old friends. That's how it should be. The heroine agreed with this. I wonder if Shinwang can get her regret rate up to 99%. The car arrived at the gate. Gao Yang asked if he wanted to come over to her place for some tea and a chat. The guy replied that Talon would misunderstand them. Moreover, the heroes are separated for only 2 days, after which Shinwang said goodbye to the heroine, and I realized that a real man must control the situation and remain unshakable, like a rock. Gao Yang called out to the guy, asking him to wait. She said that the guy works in the streaming industry, and Yang could broadcast from their room. Well, please, she begged. The main character replied that there was an excellent manager, Gao Wen, and promised to introduce him. But he noted that today it was too late to decide anything, and advised him to rest. After getting into the car, Shinwang said goodbye again. The girl was upset because she invited him, and the system congratulated the owner, as Gao Yang's regret level had reached 99%. 5 points were received as a reward. The owner also decided to refuse to go to the girl's home and receives an additional reward. This was clearly not an easy task, Shinwang thought. In high school, she was called a goddess, but this did not give the right to humiliate others and behave arrogantly. The driver arrived at the required micro-district. The protagonist concluded that it was a good decision to ignore her. Wow, the effect is really noticeable, the guy said, looking into the camera. The system congratulated the owner on the fact that thanks to the investment of skills in charisma, he became more attractive and surpassed the average person. A female voice called out to the main character, It was CC, Xinwang replied dryly. Hello. The heroine blushed, not understanding whether the main character had always been so attractive. She said that her heart was jumping out of her chest, although Xinwang looked the same as before, and it just seemed that way to her. He asked what his former classmate wanted from him. The girl was embarrassed. Why was he looking at her so tenderly? She literally melted under his gaze. Khan explained that he had been too busy the last few days and could not answer, but had come to talk so as not to be impolite. The heroine was delighted. It turns out they hadn't ignored her. They had even come. She prepared food, and Xinwang can come to her house. The main character thought for a moment and then said, "To come in?" Okay. Just for a little while, he still had things to do. The heroine stood at the stove in her home, wearing an apron, and from time to time she would glance back at Han Xinwang. He looked at her with charm and considerable charisma. She liked this because the main character is so seductive. She felt embarrassed again, reminding herself that they were just friends and there was no love. Xinwang was a little tense, wondering what the girl's face was like. Was there really something added to the food? Having placed the plate on the table, she suggested that they try the sweet rice and appreciate the taste. Smiling, the guy replied that he didn't remember Xi being so attentive before, and expressed hope that it would continue. The smile disappeared from the heroine's face, which means it will remain. She darkened, reproaching him for ignoring calls and messages, doubting his words. Xinwang said that he thought she hated him, just like in their school days, so he kept communication to a minimum. As she pushed the chair back, the guy thought that in his gut he felt the approach of 100% regret. She moved closer to Khan and said that she hadn't understood a lot of things before, and she suggested starting all over again and becoming friends. He stated that guys shouldn't fall for obvious hints because there's always a catch behind them, and he said that Cece had moved too close, and if they wanted to be friends, then we must behave accordingly, Xinwang replied, starting to eat rice. The guy winked at the girl, saying that the dinner was very tasty. Cece turned completely red, and tears started flowing from her eyes. The main character was surprised. Did he really say something wrong? Then the girl demonstratively turned away from him, thinking that he was as dumb as a brick. The Khan slowly lowered his spoon into the plate to talk to the girl. Then Xinwang admitted that he was already starting to get confused by her behavior. No matter what he does or says, the heroine is always somehow dissatisfied. Perhaps he had better go, said Khan, and thanked him for the invitation. But at that moment, Cece intercepted his hand, stopping him. And, hugging him, she shouted that the guy had completely misunderstood everything. The main character continued to be perplexed and asked what he meant. Unable to bear such stupidity, the heroine roughly pulled the guy along with her. The door slammed behind them with a distinctive thud. Cece sharply pushed the guy onto the bed, and he lost his balance. The girl didn't stop there and lowered the dress to her neckline. And then she completely threw off her outerwear. The protagonist's nose started bleeding, and he awkwardly asked what she was doing. Cece didn't answer him and fell to her knees. She admitted that she does not demand that his heart belong only to her, at least for now, and she hopes that their relationship will not deteriorate in any way after this. Even though she just wanted to be friends, she still remains a girl with her own feelings. The protagonist asked if Xi understood what their relationship would be like after this. Pursing her lips, the heroine admitted that she didn't care. She didn't care about absolutely anything, and she thought that at least today, Xinwang's body would belong to her. That's not all, because she will try to make him fall in love. Everything inside the heroes was shining. The guy admitted that Cece was very beautiful. Unnoticed, the sun's rays appeared outside the window, and morning arrived. Xinwang had just woken up, barely opening his eyes, but then the main character perked up when he saw Xi next to him. The main character involuntarily recalled that night with dozens of sighs and groans. Xinwang pondered his actions for a long time, when suddenly a question was heard. Lord, has he really woken up already? Winking at him, Xi said that because of him, the heroine would have a backache. Finally, the girl's regret level reached a full 100%, and the system congratulated the owner. The heroine approached Han Xinwang with a smile, and he wondered if after making love, the level of regret increased to 100. Do I really have to do this with every girl to reach this figure? The protagonist asked the system about rewards for reaching 100%. The voice explained that at a regret level of 100%, a person begins to generate income for the owner, and 30% of the earnings go into his account. The system reproached Khan for his arrogance and advised him to deal with the girls, but still issued a reward. Xinwang patted Xi on the head and said that the night had been unforgettable, but he needed to get down to business. In the end, the girl answered him well, but let him promise that he would come again. Khan agreed, but then thought it was time to move on to the next victim. At the same time, he promised to bring Cece a gift, since she was now his employee. The main character entered the office and greeted the employees with a smile, but they screamed, saying that Li Shu's company wanted to stage a battle by sending out proposals to all the workers. Gao sternly told Han not to distract him with trivial matters, promising to deal with the matter personally and conduct a broadcast. Looking at the red-haired girl, Xinwang thought she had a high level of regret. Yes, that's right, the main character remembered with a sly smile. Approaching Gao, he told her that she should not participate, since she was now dealing with more important matters. He continued by proposing to appoint Chiu Xinyu as the company's representative and stated that they would determine the terms of the battle themselves. The hero thought that he would help her get a promotion in order to increase her regret, and the victory would still be to his advantage. The girl replied that she was at rank B. How could she? Xinwang chuckled. Was it really worth refusing such an offer? And she decisively said no. That's great. Gao Wen just has to tell his opponents that they are ready for battle. The heroine, not entirely sure about this matter, answered, well, okay. Modern glass skyscrapers rise against the bright sky, reflecting the sun and featuring smooth lines. Women's legs, wearing only a stocking and high-heeled shoes, confidently walked across the smooth floor, echoing. Then the heroine confidently opened the door in front of her, stopping. She reported that the competitors agreed, but they have conditions. The boss, who was looking out the window, replied, oh well. When he turned around, the system reported that Liang Chao's divine system of sycophancy and ingratiation had been activated. The man asked when the battle would take place, and coming closer, the heroine replied that it would be this evening. The boss promised that he would help her win and wash away her shame. She stated that if Gao Wen did not accept the offer to participate in the streamer battle, her company would collapse, and that accepting it would lead to inevitable disgrace. The man blushed and thought that winning the streamer battle would bring success and allow him to get Gao Wen and Chiu Xinyu. Grabbing her hand, the boss asked what reward he would receive for their victory. Sitting almost on the table, the heroine asked them to stop, because everyone was looking at them. He replied that Li Shui's company belonged to both of them, which meant that the others should keep their mouths shut. Ling Chao assured that the girl was only his, and let the whole world know about it. In his mind, he admitted that the system had chosen her as its first target. And without sycophancy, he wouldn't have seen mountains of money. The boss burst out laughing because no one could keep up with him. The voice reported that in Li Shui, there was also a man with a system, and ordered that the impudent man be made to regret it. Xinwang was even surprised that another system had appeared that decided that he was bored. Looking out the window, he thought that the system was throwing up strange tasks every day, and he didn't like it. The voice became angry, threatening a fine of 666 yuan and the reduction of all awards. And then the system added that he had been awarded a reward for his daring behavior. There was a loud knock on his office door. The guy answered. Come in. Kyo appeared at the threshold. She would like to talk to the master. After a positive answer, the girl slowly closed the door. Nervously, she said thank you very much for the opportunity to prove herself. The main character saw how difficult it was for the girl, so he asked without formalities. She then stated that this time she wanted to win on her own, without relying on anyone. He asked if she had ever thought about what would happen if Chiu lost, and in my mind, I was amazed at the girl's courage. She's a real careerist. When the system awarded the reward, the hero thought that Shi had gotten to work, which was also a good mood, and he decided that every girl is a walking money-printing machine, and retirement is just around the corner. Tio looked away because Xinwang was smiling strangely, but he loomed over the heroine, asking what would happen if the girl lost. Looking up at the guy, Q shouted that she would never lose. The protagonist said that this is confidence, but warned that he would personally sit on the stream and watch how the battle goes. The girl promised to bring only profit and not disgrace the honor of the company. Xinwang added that this streamer battle is very important and promised to raise the rank from B to S in case of victory. She stood up and thanked the boss for believing in her. Chu would not let her down. On a wide street of a modern city, cars and pedestrians moved between high-rise buildings with advertising billboards. The boss, leaning back in his chair, saw a new notification from the system. He tapped the screen to open it. His target was Shishi, and he then thought that all the system's latest tasks were related to Han Xinwang. Having dialed the number, the man stated that the task, as usual, was to check on the person. The voice on the other end of the line said the price was the same as usual, 10,000 per person, but today there would be a discount. The boss replied that there were no discounts. He would even pay more if only they would do everything quickly. They answered him that they understood, and the hero knew that efficiency was paramount. Xinwang sung that this life is so enjoyable that you don't have to do anything. But the money will still continue to flow like a river. Look at the office we already have. The main character sneezed, remembering the superstition that when people sneeze, it means someone is discussing something. After receiving another reward, the hero smiled, because Cece works tirelessly for his wealth, not knowing that he comes from a village and his parents are far from rich. Then he received a call and heard on the other end of the line an offer to have dinner together. He wanted to refuse, but he thought that she had done so much and continued to work for him. Therefore, he replied that he had been sitting at the office for too long, so dinner was quite appropriate. He asked the girl if she knew a luxury restaurant in the tower. The heroine smiled, answering that, of course, and could meet him at 7. Meanwhile, a notification sound was heard in the competitor's office. It arrived to the boss, who was practically lying on the couch. The system reported that CC was heading to a restaurant for a meeting and needed to be intercepted at 6 o'clock in the evening. The famous restaurant was visible against the backdrop of the night city. The heroes were already sitting at the table. Then Xinwang offered them a drink. 2 glasses of red wine clinked together in a celebratory toast against a soft backdrop of light. The protagonist slowly took sips of wine, and Xixi watched him. Putting down the glass, Khan assumed that the girl looked tired, apparently having worked a lot. She replied that Xinwang was very observant, because today she was inundated with offers from companies. Looking at her reflection, she did not understand how the hero noticed her fatigue, and whether this could be considered concern. She realized that after breaking up with Ping, her eyes had been opened to Xinwang's kindness and hard work. Khan suggested that she eat more meat to quickly replenish her strength. Looking at the girl, he didn't understand whether it was worth starting to date her, because all this would be troublesome. Sisai was surprised to feel her heart beat faster under his gaze. The system advised that strong relationships between people require a lot of effort. The guy realized that he needed to focus and look for something new, and then he came across Li Shui's company. The girl warned that she needed to go to the restroom. Getting up from the table, she slowly and gracefully began to walk towards the door. Finally, when the door slammed shut, Xinwang asked when the system would unlock the next global target. The voice replied that the owner should expand his social circle, make new acquaintances, and communicate with people outside his usual interests. Twirling the glass in his hand, he decided that he would expand his horizons. And the upcoming auction is perfect for this. There's clearly a lot of interesting stuff there. The hand was placed under the stream of water, and cold drops slid down the skin. These were Xixi hands. Looking at her reflection, she was adjusting her makeup. As she was leaving the restroom, the boss was walking towards the girl, and they, as if by accident, collided. His shoulder hit the heroine hard. Cece began to fall rapidly, gasping in surprise. But the man's hand, reacting quickly, grabbed the girl's waist. The man said he was so careless. "Is my lady okay?" Quickly pushing her boss away, she said that everything was fine. The hero asked if they had never seen each other before. Her face looked so familiar. Sisai looked away in disgust. Such a second-rate approach. No one meets people like that anymore. He thought it was a standard scenario. The beauty rejects the main character, acts coldly, but throws herself into his arms when he saves her. Then the boss indicated with his gaze to the man that it was now his turn. Step 1. Create a problematic situation, he thought as he walked away. They called out to Cece, saying, "Hey, beauty, why is she here all alone?" She was wondering who else had come there, and the man was already offering to exchange numbers. Frowning, she told him to get lost. The hero was surprised by the aggression, but he likes the daring. Clenching her hand into a fist, Xixi asked if his parents had taught him to show respect to girls. Then the hero grabbed her by the wrists and threatened that he would not let go. He continued to assure her that she would run away, but it would be better to spend the evening together, because he had a Porsche parked there that she would definitely like. Step 2. The appearance of a hero who will save the beauty from the clutches of the villain. The boss pushed the villain away, indignantly reminding him that CC had asked him to let her go, or he hadn't understood the first time. Then the man shouted that his father was the chairman. How dare they behave like that? He replied that he didn't care, but in his mind he was amazed at such acting. CC looked at him with disbelief, wondering why he first played a pickup artist and now a hero from a TV series. The boss turned to her and asked worriedly if that man had hurt her and whether she should go to the hospital or the police station. And he smiled slyly, inviting her to hang on his neck, kiss him for saving her, and exchange contact information. The heroine raised an eyebrow and replied that a simple apology would be enough. The man started screaming, accusing him of pretending to be a hero and threatening to call someone to have him dealt with. The boss replied that he should be ashamed of himself for bullying the girl and stated that he was not afraid of his friends. Xinwang came to them and asked what had happened there. Then the heroine asked why he came here. Khan explained that she had been gone for a long time, and he thought that some trouble might have arisen. The man thought about it when he learned that this was Han Xinwang. He wondered why the system was interested in their relationship. She pointed at the heroes, accusing one of harassment and the other of strange behavior, even though he tried to help. The protagonist thanked the boss for his help, but chuckled to himself, suspecting a trick in what was happening. "It's his duty," the hero answered, and he himself realized that CC was meeting with him, and what he should do now. But the reward for Shishi is huge, and although he lost today, this is just the beginning. Then Xinwang asked the villain when his brothers would arrive, because his girlfriend was tired and needed a hot meal. The girl, all blushing, looked at Khan, thinking how much he cared for her. For this to happen, she needs to be shown much more love. The hero realized that since Xinwang was here, pestering Shishi was pointless, and it was better to just leave. The boss said that since the lady was in good hands, he did not dare detain them, and he quietly ordered the man to get out of here too. I wonder if he really fell in love with Shishi, even though it all looks like a pretense. Then the villain turned around, saying that everyone here was an asshole, and there was no point in wasting time on them. The main character grinned and shouted, "Actor!" which angered the man, and he asked again what Khan had said. Xinwang repeated with a grin, asking what acting school he graduated from, since he plays the role perfectly. The man angrily asked if the guy was all right in the head. What roles? Xinwang continued asking how much the departed hero paid him, and CC was surprised and asked if this was really an actor. The man started running away, shouting that he didn't have time to chat with crazy people and weaklings. But after the phrase that Xinwang would pay 10 times more, he immediately stopped. Turning around, the man began to stutter and ask again, "What, at 10? The guy replied with a smile that smart people look for ways to make money. But he clarified whether he had his eye on his woman. When opening the car, the boss said that the detective took the money but did nothing. "And he didn't tell me that one of the girls was dating Xinwang." The voice said that there were 4 hours left until the end of the task, and urged them not to give up, because everything would work out. He slammed his fist on the steering wheel, shouting that the system was stupid, and he had already lost. What 4 hours? The man was puzzled as to how such a perfect plan could fail. He was angry, clenching his fist, and shouting that the fine was nonsense, because he had money, which meant he would solve everything. He promised that Xinwang's company would be destroyed in the streaming industry. The heroes entered the house, barely able to stand on their feet. Slamming the door shut, Cici finally answered, and she pressed herself closer to Han Xinwang, kissing him passionately. The heroes barely broke away from each other, leaving a trail of saliva on their lips. Cici began to lower the neckline of her dress, slowly and carefully, declaring that Han Xinwang would spend this evening only with her. The main character abruptly took his jacket off the hanger. After putting it on Cici, he asked what she was doing. The heroine admitted that she wanted to thank Xinwang for his help today. Stroking the girl on the head, he said that he had done almost nothing. Then he noticed that Cici was simply drunk and had even taken off all her clothes in case she got sick. This did not stop the girl, and she began kissing the main character again. Xinwang could not restrain his impulses and kissed her back. But then I realized that the heroine simply took everything into her own hands. But it shouldn't be like this, because he's the one in charge here. But it's hard to refuse her, thought Han Xinwang. And anyway, what man could refuse something like that? It's funny. And when a girl behaves so boldly, it turns you on even more. The heroine offered to do everything herself, and Khan was not against it. At that moment, a bottle of champagne popped open. In the reflection of the window, the silhouettes of the heroes were visible, doing this on the sofa. And at that moment, their neighbors were celebrating some kind of holiday. It's morning, and the action moves to Han Xinwang's office. Sitting at the monitor, Chu determined that she could handle it. Gao Wen said that she had watched all of Li Shui's streams in recent days, and was confident that Chu was better at everything, whether it was singing or dancing. And she continued that victory and defeat are just experience, and the main thing is to try your best. So don't be nervous and just concentrate. Then Gao Wen entered Han Xinwang's office with folders. He asked with a smile if the girl had ordered everything. She responded enthusiastically that everything was already prepared, plane tickets, a 5-star hotel, and a company car rented for 2 days. After which Han called Gao Wen to the monitor, and he asked the heroine what she thought was best to do with her. And he continued, recalling how she had come up to him at the bar and asked to organize a streamer battle. Even then he realized that she was not an ordinary girl. Gao Wen replied that such a girl submits to money and power. She likes rich and powerful men who are capable of dominance. Xinwang thought about it, comparing himself to the soft and docile guy after his night with Shishi. Everyone understood that he was far from decisive and dominant. "The stream will start in 2 minutes," the heroes announced. Slowly inhaling and exhaling, Chu was already standing in front of the phone. And so, she decided to click the start button. She announced with a smile that the long-awaited streamer battle had begun and asked what kind of show viewers wanted to see: dancing, singing, or maybe something else, more special. The heroine wondered why Liang irritated her so much today, because this had never happened before. But despite this, the girl pressed the start button, and she greeted the viewers with a joyful smile, announcing the start of the long-awaited streamer battle. And the girl will thank all major donors in a special way. The main character thought, money and powerful men. Then let's start with money. After which, Xinwang immediately began sending her 30 missiles. He decided to use this tactic first, and then we'll see. The streamer smiled, wondering if it was Liang, although no, it was a different nickname. Showing a heart, she said that she would perform her legendary dance, especially for the top donor. Blushing, she was delighted that this could really be the same donor. After which, I immediately turned on a song called A Lot of Time. She began to dance to the lines of the song, calling for surrender to stupidity and love without rules, moving boldly and seductively. She doesn't tremble, she just dances, and he is drawn to her. It was heard in the song. But the dance is dirty. It rocks so much and carries you around the corner. The missiles continued to fly rapidly towards the girl's stream. And the streamer was happy, because this was the easiest victory in her life. But the missiles were not only flying to competitors, Chu also received them in huge quantities. And in the chat, they wrote to her with delight. One viewer admitted that he liked her ignoring the haters. Another blew her a kiss. Kyo thanked absolutely everyone, repeating, "Thank you, dear ones." The system stated that the owner had started an interesting game and helped his opponent get ahead of his own employee, and his plan is admirable, for which he receives a reward. Xinwang realized that it was time to act for the benefit of his company. In front of him stood 6 tripods with Q's stream. He twisted and spun his hand sharply, screaming, pressing each phone 100 times, more and more, without stopping. This went on for a minute at first, Xinwang screaming. Then for 2 minutes, Xinwang also screamed incessantly. But I was already starting to get tired, so much so that even ashes were flying through the air. When the main character stopped, his finger was burning. In a languid voice, Chu asked the audience how they liked her dancing. But the chat was shut down by rockets, donation notifications filled the screen, and viewers began complaining that they couldn't see the messages or the dance. The main character was surprised. They don't even like it or what? Xiao became worried and asked what was going on in their chat. In the rivals chat, viewers were taunting her and asking where her top donor was. The girl didn't know what to do, so she decided to write to him, but the message was deleted. The girl said that they should wait for her. A little while she was going to change into clothes more suitable for dancing. The heroine angrily walked down the corridor, not understanding what Liang was doing. Meanwhile, the man looked at the stream statistics. He muttered in surprise, "Could that guy really be that rich?" It seemed incredible to him. The door to the office opened abruptly, and a girl stood on the threshold, who screamed that they were losing, and what the gentleman thought of himself. She screamed, demanding that viewers send donations immediately and overtake top donor Q Xinyu. And her interlocutor simply noted with surprise how much money had already been donated to her. The system stated that the ratio had dropped by 50%. The hero said that he was about to send a donation, but Xinyu's fans were too fast. Smiling, the girl replied that there was nothing wrong with his slowness. The main thing was victory. He was worried because his system's limit was 200 million, but it could only be spent on winning girls. The streamer said she would be eagerly awaiting donations. The man wondered how to get out of it. He had already spent 50 million, and the stream had only just begun. The system did not give a reward, and Li Shi, his first target, and her attitude cannot be lost. And the boss must try his best not to screw up. His finger literally glowed, and he began to point at the rockets with great speed. Xinwang was delighted. Finally, the enemy decided to answer him. The guy noted that he was fiddling with it for a long time. It was boring. And lunch break is almost here, so it's time to finish with one sure move. The system declared that the owner was too arrogant, so without further ado, it immediately issued a reward. 666,666,000 yuan. All enemy missiles flew out of the boss's screen. His phone fell out of his hands because he had almost no money left. The hero squatted down, covering his head with his hands. The man understood that he was finished. The employees discussed what might have happened to Mr. Liang. Suddenly, at that moment, an angry streamer appeared, declaring that she had lost. She continued by telling Mr. Liang that after the last stream, many employees had moved to Dojin Media, and asked what they should do now. Relationship with the girl has been lowered by another 20%. He was upset because he had spent another 50 million, but it did not help, and everything seemed lost. He then became angry, accused Li Shum of being too demanding, and told her to look for another rich man. Ling shouted that they lost, to which the streamer said that it was easy for him to say. The hero continued with reproach. He spent 100 million on the stream, and she still couldn't win. And he told her to ask who else was capable of investing such money in one person. Ah, so that's how he spoke, the girl thought, and went out the door. He shouted after her because she didn't care about the others. The action moves to the protagonist's office. There was a slow knock on the door. Xin Wang replied, "Come in." Gao Wen happily reported that Li Shuyi had decided to resign, bringing fresh news. The hero thought, although he expected this, he didn't think that she would decide to quit so quickly. The guy said that he would make Li Shui an employee of his company. The girl was indignant that she was proud and that it would be difficult to do business with her. Xin Wang assured her that she would be a valuable employee and that Gao Wen should prepare for the auction. The heroine decided that the guy sees what others do not see. Han sent Li Shui a donation of 10,000. The system did not approve of such actions and sent 1 yuan as a reward. At this time, the girl was looking at her phone, reading the chat to see if she could guess who sent her the donation. She didn't understand how she should do this, and at that very second, the answer came that it was Han Xinwang. The heroine's mouth fell open, perplexed as to why that same Han Xinwang was donating to her. The guy texted Li Shui that he had reserved a separate table for them at the restaurant and that they could have lunch instead. The elevator opened with a characteristic sound. Li Shui came out of it, deep in thought. It turns out that Han Xinwang was donating to her all this time. The restaurant was illuminated by 1,000 lights. Knocking on the door, the heroine asked if Khan was here. Smiling, the main character said that they hadn't seen Lu for a long time. She replied, who could have known that he was so rich? That evening with Gao Wen at the club, it was him. Right. Xinwang replied that yes, that was true. Let Li Shuyi sit down. And they will finally have dinner together. The hero continued. The streamer realized that the person sitting in front of her was the same mysterious donor who had pushed Gao Wen to the top. Xinwang replied that yes, that was true, and noted the expensive champagne. The waiter immediately took their glasses and smoothly poured the drink. The heroine stated that with such financial support, she would not be able to defeat her rival, even if she tried 10 times harder. The hero replied that he could support her too, but she said that then Gao Wen would hate him. The guy replied that if she joined Dujin Media, then he and Gao Wen would become colleagues, and there would be no quarrels. He continued that there would be a hunt for a valuable streamer like her. Therefore, Xinwang is ready to sign a contract for any amount. She smirked and assumed that Hana had sent Gao Wen to laugh at her. The main character answered, 100 million. Well, okay, he agrees. Li Shui was surprised because she hadn't yet had time to name the amount, but she wanted to offer 10 million. The girl's level of regret increased by 20%. The system revealed that Li Shui would have agreed to a 10 million contract, but the owner exceeded her expectations. Khan said he understood that there are no true friends in business, but if interests coincide, the alliance will be strong. He saw the blush on the girl's cheeks. So it's in the bag, Xinwang thought. He hugged the heroine and said that he had too much money to spend alone, so he would spend it on her. Li Shui trembled, not believing that such tempting offers could exist in life, and the current level of regret has increased by 40%. She then stated that she agreed to work at Dujin Media, but did not promise to stay for long. Xinwang responded that their company does not turn employees into contract slaves, and that they can quit at any time. Li Shuyi asked if Han was so rich that workers could leave whenever they wanted, to which he replied that money can only be earned by spending it, especially on your employees. Xinwang extended his hand, hoping for long-term cooperation. Li Shuyi extended her hand for a handshake, and he replied that the feeling was mutual. The guy smiled one evening, and so much progress in the relationship. There were screams coming from the office. Shi Yun didn't add him as a friend, and the relationship with Li Shui collapsed. The boss continued shouting. The system suggested that I needed to establish a relationship with Shi Yun as soon as possible, otherwise the mission would fail. The man became even more angry because he was already trying his best. The voice continued that if the task was failed, 20% of the potential reward would be deducted from his account. He screamed at her not to touch his money and that the system had gone crazy. Rushing out of the office, Liang declared that these tasks would ruin him and rushed towards Shi Yun. The girl worked as a photo model, for which money trickled into the main character's account. One click of the lens, and the system awarded 300 yuan. One new pose, and Xin Wang would get 300 yuan again. He thought that Cece's way of earning money was rather provocative, but it didn't bring in much money, and he should find her a better job. Gao Wen looked at the protagonist and didn't understand what he was thinking about. Xin Wang replied about how to make more money. He wanted to have at least twice as much money as there was now. They discussed that the company would have to spend a lot of money to develop, but the more investment, the higher the profit. The secretary carried a bouquet, saying that some young man had asked her to give it to Mrs. Yun. With a smile, Shishi asked if the young man had introduced himself, and then she replied that it didn't matter. She already knew who it was. The girl decided that Xin Wang noticed her love for yellow roses, and even though he gave her the bouquet secretly, it was touching. She asked me to pack my things because I decided to meet this young man. While the secretary was packing her things, the heroine had already gone out to the guy, saying, "Darling." And then I wondered why Xin Wang was wearing this suit, was shorter, and had different hair. The boss turned to her with a smile, thinking that yellow roses were the best choice, and that was the start. The heroine froze, realizing that in front of her was not Xin Wang at all, but some strange guy with an idiotic smile. She didn't want this stranger to come closer. The man approached Mrs. Yun and asked if she liked his gift of yellow roses. The heroine was very upset and asked if it was he who gave them to her. He replied that he had noticed her photos with yellow roses on social media and decided that she liked them, so he gave them to her. But the relationship dropped by 20%. Liang was puzzled. What the hell? The heroine returned the gift, and he replied that it did not oblige her to anything, but that flowers simply suited her very well. Cece asked what he wanted to talk about, and the interest rates kept falling. She then assumed that the boss had come to offer her a modeling job. The hero thought about it because his proposal was simple and modest, and the relationship had no further hope of improving. But the level of relations constantly fell, no matter what he did. The girl replied that her boyfriend would not be delighted, so there is no need to get acquainted, and she will return to work. Liang decided that he shouldn't have been stingy with women, and should have realized earlier how important it was to spend enough money on them. The system stated that the current relationship level with Ji Shi-yun was minus 75%, and if it dropped to minus 90, the quest would automatically fail. He fell to the floor, clutching his head, and screamed in despair that the wealth system only brought failure. The plane takes off into a clear sky above a modern airport, illuminated by the sun's rays. The boy and girl walked out of the airport and slowly moved forward. A luxurious car appeared in front of them, shining brightly. The driver holding the door said that he had to escort Ms. Gao Wen and Mr. Han Xin Wang to the hotel, and then they will go to dinner in honor of the auction. In response, Xin Wang only smiled. The car pulled up to the hotel, and the driver carefully opened the door. The driver informed Mr. Han that he would contact him half an hour before the event began. 4 people in an elegant setting stand at the stairs, greeting the heroes. One of them said that the gentleman and lady's luggage had already been delivered to their room. The elevator door slammed shut, and the 2 men began to discuss Zhang Li, calling him a traitor who is selling out cultural values. One of them said that Zhang Li could buy any lot if he liked the item. Anyone who tried to put a spoke in Zhang Li's wheel would end up with broken arms and legs. The elevator arrived and the 2 gossips walked away. Gao Wen noticed that, judging from their conversation, that man would be difficult to deal with. Xin Wang replied that he could not tolerate traitors and would buy any lot he wanted. The girl wondered if he was afraid that they would simply deal with him. Han replied that Zhang Li wouldn't dare approach him, since he hadn't just pumped up his stat points for nothing. And most importantly, the guy is confident that this time he will earn a lot of money. The man sat at a large monitor and watched the heroes. He slowly exhaled cigarette smoke, not taking his eyes off the screen. And he said that the guy was interesting, but he would hardly dare to compete with him. With one movement of his hand, Zhang Li called someone over. Behind his back, slowly and deliberately, a pair of female legs appeared. A girl in a red kippah with a fan and hairpins turned to the gentleman, but he asked if the girl knew what she had to do. She replied that the boy should be gently hinted not to interfere in the auction. He said it correctly, although he would have fought with him for some lot. And I would let these unfortunate people know who is in charge here. They spied on the heroes for a little while longer, and then the boss said to act. Gao Wen said that she needed to change clothes and rest after the flight, but she asked to call her if anyone was going to go somewhere. The guy went into the toilet, and a girl was watching him behind a flower pot. She thought that the girl was just an assistant. And it's worth capturing the boy, she said, and moved forward. The heroine quickly climbed up the stairs, and, grabbing onto the ropes, she made her way to the pipe. The girl decided to crawl through the ventilation first, and then she quickly grabbed the pipe, trying to climb into it. She did it all quite quickly, and now the spy was already inside. Finally, the spy crawled closer to the bars. Slowly removing one of them, she saw Xin Wang pressing the flush button. The guy pressed the button again, harder. Water flowed out of the toilet, and Khan liked it. So the main character started pressing the button several times, after which all the water flowed into his face with quite a strong pressure. He fell down, screaming that it all got right into his eyes. Xin Wang was discussing how high-tech the toilet was, and the girl was listening. Now it splashed on his face, but what if it splashed somewhere else? Then you can wash yourself, he continued. The spy watched everything in shock, not understanding whether he had one convolution in his brain or what. The main character started to rip out the toilet paper, to wipe the water drops off your face. At this moment, the system announced that Murong Manhwa had been added to the regret section. Murong Manhwa, 26 years old, 170 centimeters tall, 58 kilograms in weight, regret level 0%. Xin Wang raised an eyebrow in bewilderment. Where did this come from anyway? Looking back, he wondered why the system had added her and whether the organizers had set it up. The protagonist laughed wickedly, thinking it was so awkward. She thought he was crazy, that he was a pervert and that he was trying to resist her master. The guy kept thinking that if the system added her to the regrets section, this means that the girl's impression of him was not the best. Suddenly, the main character disappeared from the heroine's sight. She put on special glasses for her vision. And I was very surprised by something. The surveillance moved to Xin Wang's bedroom. The spy didn't understand why he was going to bed, since anyone else would have noticed the surveillance long ago. But Khan only took off his jacket and threw it on the bed. And then he crawled under the bed. Murong did not understand such actions, so I decided to focus my glasses. How the focus went straight to the protagonist's butt. The girl's mouth fell open, either in surprise or disgust. At this time, Xin Wang wondered if the system had chosen the girl remotely, since she was nowhere to be seen. And the spy thought that he was not the son of rich people, but just a lucky guy with money and a stupid expression on his face. Exhaling, she couldn't understand why she had to bother with such an idiot. Looking up, the heroine saw a mouse and realized that she was still in the ventilation. The mouse smiled slyly, looking at the spy. The heroine realized that this rodent was up to something, and with a quiet movement she calmed the animal. The mouse quickly ran away, and the heroine breathed a sigh of relief because she remained unnoticed, and she decided to seduce the boy so that the matter would be in the bag. Morning came and the multi-story hotel began to wake up. The main character's room was constantly ringing. He replied that he was coming, but when he opened the door, he did not understand who was standing in front of him. The stranger introduced herself as a manager, sent by the auction house to explain the rules and regulations. The system announced that a new character with a beautiful appearance had been discovered. Xin Wang thought the girl was nice and polite, but her negative opinion only made things more interesting. After all, everyone knows how this will end in the end. The main character asked if they should go to the office. The girl replied that no, and that they could do it in the room. Opening the door slightly, Khan agreed, as it would be much more convenient. The regret level dropped by 10%, and the system silently recorded the change. Murong thought about it, even though the guy seemed pathetic and stupid from the outside. But now that she saw him closer, Xin Wang was not even that bad. The hero offered her a seat and asked if she would like water, juice, or wine. The lady replied that no, and suggested having a little fun. A smile appeared on Xin Wang's face, and he thought, so that's how it is. Then he slumped on the girl's shoulder, saying that he felt dizzy, the heroine thought, realizing that even though she was a beauty, she was not at all interested in idiots. The girl jumped up sharply. The main character fell to the floor from such surprise. She shouted that he was a lustful upstart, thinking of only one thing and suspecting nothing. Xin Wang realized that the points he had invested in strength had saved him from the blow, although his head still began to spin. Putting her foot on the guy's back, she promised to make an obedient dog out of him. Han wondered if he had pleased Chang Li enough to even hire someone to deal with him. She smiled, promising to deal with him like old times. This cheered up the guy. He thought about what it meant, like in the good old days. Sometime later, it was already daytime outside the window. Han Xin Wang woke up in a chair, chained. When he opened his eyes, he did not understand what had happened to him. And then I realized that I was almost naked and covered in ropes. Murong chuckled, noticing that the lady clearly wanted to have fun, but had gone too far. She added that she hopes to cooperate with Mr. Khan. The protagonist replied that the way to establish relationships was interesting, but it was unclear what exactly they would be collaborating on. She replied that she needed to cooperate with her owner at the auction. Bending down, the heroine declared that he should not outbid her, and he is obliged to help buy lots for Mr. Zhang. The girl asked him to look at her photographs, and think carefully about your answer again. After all, Some of these photographs were quite explicit. Xinwang replied that the angle was indeed good. But I would like to know where exactly they are going to send these shots. Murong shouted, not hiding her anger. Isn't he afraid that because of these photos, his reputation will suffer and he will go bankrupt? After all, she has the power to stage these photos in such a way that Khan will definitely not be in the best light. Then she asked if he was pretending to be indifferent in order to maintain his decent reputation as a rich man. The guy replied that he was not rich at all, he just had some savings, but he was far from being truly rich, and let them post photos, he doesn't care, and asked if this was the only threat. She was perplexed why he wasn't afraid for his reputation, since usually rich people are ready to do anything just to delete a photo. The main character said that his head stopped spinning. After these words, Xinwang tensed up and began to tear the ropes. When they were finished, Khan straightened up. The girl turned completely red and stood in shock. The guy came closer to her and put one hand on the wall, and with his other hand, he threw the tablet away. He sternly warned that without his permission, Ms. Murong would not be able to publish the photographs. The heroine trembled all over, realizing how close he was standing. Strong, pumped up, attractive, like a martial arts master. He also learned everything about the participants and works as a specialist. And he even managed to reveal her identity. Xinwang knew that the information from the system was already sufficient to act confidently. The girl's level of regret increased by 5%. She exhaled and said that she could not have posted these photos without his knowledge. Sitting down on the bed, Khan said that the mercenary had sensibly assessed the enemy's strength and decided not to engage. He also warned that he knew her weight, height, and features, so if something happened to him, her career would be over. After speaking, Han Xinwang reached for his tablet, and he began to scroll through his photos, noting that he would even post some of them. The heroine blushed, realizing that the guy would now demand something. The guy replied that he had been photographed. It would be fair to take a photo of her in response. Murong became angry, realizing that this rich man was a real pervert. The heroine abruptly snatched the book from the table. She started to leaf through it and fold origami. The result was a full-fledged paper dagger. Murong ran at Xinwang with all her speed, but he dodged. Lying on the bed, the guy grabbed the girl with his leg. Having turned her over onto her back, Xinwang sat on her. The girl screamed, "Let him kill her if he had the strength." Khan asked, confused, why kill, since it was prohibited by law? And why is she unaware of such simple things? From this moment on, the heroine must listen to all of Xinwang's orders. The girl's regret level increased by 5%. The protagonist was surprised, deciding that she was a masochist and liked being controlled. And I decided that it was definitely worth saying something like that. He continued, threatening that if she resisted, he would tie her up and whip her. The level of regret increased again, but this time by 15%. Murong replied that she understood everything, but hoped that Xinwang would simply die. Taking a whip, the guy declared that if he died, he would take the lady with him. After which, Xinwang began to quickly type something on his phone. The girl asked in surprise what he was doing. The main character replied with a smile that he was making someone worry unnecessarily. The heroine's level of regret increased by 5%. A courier arrived at the door of Xinwang's room. The protagonist brought a black bag and ordered Murong to get dressed. And he asked not to ask stupid questions, but to simply follow orders. The girl gasped, looking into the bag, and Khan announced that he was giving her 3 minutes to change and start posing. Otherwise, the spy will face severe punishment, the guy threatened. Taking the package, Murong replied that she didn't want to, but she was being forced to. The camera lens was pointed at the girl, and the flash turned on. First, a black bodysuit with a red scarf and gloves, complemented by an insect-shaped hat. The guy liked this costume and took pictures of Murong from different angles. The girl continued posing, but did not understand what kind of costume it was. But it's good that at least you don't have to wear it on a permanent basis. Red bodysuit with black ears, bow and cuffs, in the style of a playful bunny. A red medical uniform with black buttons and white crosses, complete with 2 large syringes. A white cap with a gold badge, a dark blue uniform with shoulder straps and a white skirt, a pistol, and handcuffs. Xinwang shouted that heroes who save the world should not look so gloomy and ignore their feelings. Stroking Murong's face, he said that with her figure, she could cosplay as Ultraman and told her to change without whining. The girl's regret level increased by 10%. The heroine asked to change into normal clothes, but the main character just licked his lips, saying that it was too erotic. And the girl definitely decided that he was a real pervert. At the same time, its level continued to increase significantly. After turning off the tablet, he said that there were enough photos, and now they were even. Khan admitted that he took the photos on her tablet, but decided to buy it so as not to transfer the pictures. And he continued, offering 500,000 without bargaining, adding that the item was already used. Murong realized that the proposed price was much higher than the cost of the tablet, and such a benefit could not be ignored. Xinwang suggested not to hold a grudge after everything that had happened, but added that he still had to settle accounts with her owner. But the heroine admitted that he was not even close to Mr. Zhang. The guy laughed and said they would watch it again. The heroine covered her mouth with her hand, asking if he was really going to torture her. He thought about it. As soon as a hint of masochistic tendencies appeared, her heart began to literally jump out of her chest. And then he said that his name was Han Xinwang and that he would fight to the very end, ordering that this message of his be conveyed. She was surprised that they were letting her go so easily. What an idiotic decision. The hero chuckled, confident that he would not cause any trouble, and allowed him to return to his master. Murong shouted at this overconfident rich man not to dare look down on her, and the door slammed behind the heroine. She walked down the corridor, completely angry. In the corridor, the girl crossed paths with Gao Wen. After that, the heroine turned around, thinking, this girl, strange. Trying to shake off her thoughts, Gao Wen knocked on the door. Xinwang said right from the start that they had a new enemy. This surprised the girl, but she entered the room. Then she began to speculate if this was the same Zhang Li who resold traditional jewelry overseas. It is not surprising that he is ready to do anything to achieve his goals. Putting on his suit, Khan decided to make friends with this man at today's banquet. Gao awkwardly asked if that woman was really a murderer, and if he wasn't afraid for his life. The protagonist replied that he was not a weakling who could be easily intimidated, stroking her on the head. And he added that that woman would still serve them against her master. Khan noticed that she looked great lately, and asked if she had had plastic surgery, noticing that her nose had become thinner. The system was indignant, declaring that the owner was already playing around too much, praised Gao Wen's beautiful nose, and gave a reward, ordering him to pamper the girl. Turning sharply, the heroine ordered them to go, as the car was waiting for them. And he thought that he had always treated her like an older sister, and had not noticed her beauty, deciding to remember to raise her salary upon his return. At night, the majestic building glowed from within, with a warm light, rising under the starry sky. 2 luxury cars, a Rolls-Royce and a Bentley, sped down the night road. One of the cars stopped, and the driver wished the heroes a good evening. 2 people walked arm in arm along the sidewalk, sparkling in the night, he in a formal suit, she in a daring outfit. They entered the luxurious hall, and 3 people stood at the foot of the grand staircase. Gao Wen and Xinwang raised their glasses of wine by the high windows, illuminated by soft light. The heroine noticed Zhang Li and told the guy about it. A man in a dark purple robe sipped his wine slowly, watching the proceedings with serene grace. The Khan said not to be distracted by the scoundrel, and suggested enjoying fine wine and pleasant company. He is destined for defeat, and therefore he does not intend to waste a minute of his time on it. The girl smiled, noting that the boss was right, and they raised their glasses to their health. In a luxurious hall with marble walls and a wide staircase, the 4 participants of the evening stood frozen with glasses of wine. Because Zhang Li noticed the heroes, his gaze turned to them, as if anticipating the next move. The gentleman recalled his question about the outfit. The girl calmly replied that Han Xinwang forced her to wear a suit and took indecent photos. He was surprised how they managed to defeat him, because she was one of the best fighters at his disposal. Falling to one knee, Murong began babbling, apologizing for her defeat and conveying a message from the winner. He conveyed that he would fight the boss until the very end, the heroine stated. The man laughed, saying how interesting it was, and smiling, he declared that he would see who would win. At the banquet, noticing an old acquaintance among the guests, he gently apologized to his interlocutor and went to say hello. Coming closer to them, he noted with a slight smile that it was the first time he saw them at an auction, and introduced himself as Zhang Li. He added that he is quite an influential person, so if you need help, don't hesitate to ask. Xinwang responded mockingly, accusing Zhang Li of hypocrisy, and reminding him that he himself had approached him with a hint, and now pretended not to recognize him. The system gave the guy a reward of 500 yuan, but he was surprised why it was so little. The owner laughed, saying that he could not do such a thing. Frowning, the man noticed that the boy had a lot of guts. The protagonist reminded that the auction would take place tomorrow, and expressed hope that there would be no new traps. And he reproached Zhang Li for selling national treasures, questioning his honor. The man grinned, making a caustic remark about how the milk-sucking youngster was already dreaming of competing with adults, and promised to see how he would behave tomorrow. The boss was briefed on Khan over the phone. His influence, methods, and recent actions were mentioned, and it was emphasized that he continued to act confidently and without looking back. They also mentioned that he had a significant amount of money in his bank account, but not enough to compete with you at the auction. The hero laughed, surprised that he had been challenged without money, and anticipating tomorrow's events. Against the backdrop of a luxurious chandelier, Gao Wen admitted that she was scared. When Chang Li himself approached, she didn't expect that he would start arguing with him. Xin Wang replied that he did not attach much importance to his words, and simply wanted to anger the man. Frowning, the heroine asked again what. The main character assured that he had everything under control, and there was no need to worry. A spy appeared from behind, overhearing the discussion of Xin Wang's confidence despite his lack of money and experience. Her hand trembled as Murong clutched the wall. Blushing, she promised to take revenge on Khan when her boss wins. On the day of the auction, the events moved to a luxury high-rise building. Everyone surrounded the hero, hoping for cooperation and striving to obtain the tourmaline from Bactria. Murong said that Han Xinwang had yelled at Mr. Zhang in front of everyone yesterday and blamed him, but she assured him that she would put something in his drink. But the boss replied that he would humiliate him in front of all the auction guests and show that Zhang Li easily gets what he wants. The protagonist chuckled, comparing his interlocutor to a politician throwing out slogans, and noted that it even looked cute. They were surprised where the boy came from. He laughed at the fact that he was accused of having problems with memory, vision, and hearing, although he was just passing by. He also asked if Ms. Murong had conveyed everything he had asked her to tell her boss. Dark with anger, she declared that Khan would lose today. The man stopped her, telling her not to pay attention to the provocations. Then he approached the guy and wished him a good time at the first auction. He asked him not to worry about it, because Xinwang would definitely have fun. The presenter thanked everyone for participating in the wonderful homeland auction, and she announced that 60% of the proceeds would be donated to an international fund to help children. Of the participants sitting in the hall, Edward from country A, Ekaterina from the country R. Also here was Basha from the country of R, Yuta Fujita from the country of Ya. They also announced that the most important and honorable participant was Mr. Zhang Li. At the same time, there are also newcomers in their hall, the presenter continued. The auction house welcomes Han Xinwang. The guests began to whisper among themselves, discussing the surname Han, and recalling that it belonged to a young gentleman from a noble family in Shanghai. But at the same time, they doubted whether anyone else with that surname could have participated in the auction. The lights went out and the girl announced that after the introduction of the participants, the auction was officially open. The boss noted that Fang Hua's sinister smile gave them away and suggested they just enjoy the auction, as a more interesting competitor had appeared today. The host announced that the first lot was the Song Dynasty Phoenix Song, with a starting price of 800,000 yuan. Mrs. Ekaterina made the first bet. The protagonist asked Gao Wen if she liked the necklace. She replied that the pendant was indeed beautiful, but tried to object. At the same time, Xinwang raised the price of the lot to 3 million. The girl stopped him, reminding him that they had come for other lots and had no intention of buying this one. But Xinwang assured that all the lots were national treasures, and by purchasing them, they were helping to restore culture. And besides, she really liked the necklace. The heroine blushed and replied that it was too expensive. Khan smiled, replying that she deserved such a gift. The hammer rang 3 million times. Who wants to place another bet? Participants reasoned that the jade pendant, an ordinary trinket, would be worth no more than 1,200,000 on resale. The boss said that he came only for the final lot and let the boy brag about his money. The hammer echoed throughout the room. A loud voice rang out, "Sold." The protagonist raised his hand, asking if he could get the item right now. The presenter announced that, of course, the phoenix was now his. She brought the lot straight to the hero. A jade necklace with a large green stone in the center sparkles on a black stand. The system announced that the gentleman had spent 3 million on a trinket, and as a reward, she gave out 6 million yuan, encouraging even more enthusiastic spending. Gao Wen asked if it was too much to give such an expensive gift, to which Xinwang replied that money should enrich their lives, literally and figuratively. The presenter began to announce the second lot. Suddenly, Khan interrupted her, shouting that he was betting 5 million. The boss laughed at the boy, and the main character continued to raise his stakes. This was already putting a lot of stress on the man. The rate increase reached 50 million yuan. It was obvious that the boss was on edge and worried. His subordinate did not understand how Xinwang could possibly have such sums. The man thought, sure that the guy didn't have much money. He decided that Khan was spending his last savings, just for the sake of a show of rivalry. The girl announced that it was time for the final and most important lot. The host lifted the cloth and introduced the divine voices of Wanlan Huaguang auction, with a starting price of 100 million yuan. The hero began to think that Chang Li was probably watching him and assessing his financial capabilities. However, bonus funds from the system are not recorded anywhere and remain invisible to the accounting department. The battle for the final lot shouldn't be quick. It's worth putting on a show, Xinwang thought. The heroine claimed that the lot had previously belonged to a collector from the UK and was created by a mysterious architect who donated the statue to the Tang dynasty. One of the participants from Country Yi raised the price by 110 million. A girl from the Country I for 120 million. The presenter counted out the price at 120 million and asked if anyone wanted to raise it. Gao Wen asked if the guy didn't want to take this lot. Xinwang replied that they were in for some fun. The spy laughed to herself, chuckling at how the guy had spent all his money on consumer goods. Then she received a notification on her phone. The heroine's face suddenly changed to anger and surprise. There were her intimate photos on the screen, and the girl got angry. What a scoundrel. Her regret increased by 2%. Han noticed that the more he manipulated Manhwa, the more regret he felt, but he hoped to earn a large sum of money from her talents. He received a reward for being a spy, and then for being a CC. Suddenly, regret began to drop by 5%. The guy didn't understand what was going on. The heroine was angry, calling him a fool for trying to blackmail her with an unsuccessful photograph. She wouldn't mind posing for a more erotic photo. Xinwang asked if he would continue to lose regret. To this, the system responded that until the regret reached 99%, any wrong actions would reduce the indicator's value. Regret rose and fell, and the hero wondered what was going on in the girl's head because of one photograph. The presenter banged the gavel, calling on the participants to compete for the lot worth 120 million. The boss chuckled, calling Xinyan a soft show-off, and initially decided to give up the lot to Footsuit, but then remembered that he wanted to demonstrate his full strength. The man raised the price of the lot to 130 million yuan. After this act, Khan immediately raised the price to 140. The boss turned around, and the protagonist mentally addressed the older participant, provocatively offering to raise the bet, since he came here for fun. The system announced that the owner was astonishingly proud today, awarded him 1 million yuan, and urged him to continue in the same spirit. The heroine screamed 140 million times. She continued the bidding, announcing 140 million, and expressing surprise at the lack of new bidders. The old man thought that it was all his fault if he hadn't fallen into that lady's trap then. Having exhaled, he finally made up his mind, and said, "Come what may." And he raised the price of the lot to 150 million. The main character chuckled and said, "Oh, what a twist." The boss was angry because after the annoying boy, an old man from abroad, also intervened in the fight. "The jokes are over," he declared. "Let the heroine put poison in Xinwang's drink." But Murong thought that she should have chosen a photo with her dress lifted up even more to make it work, and decided to remove the obstacle for the sake of her boss. She smiled, noting that his shibari technique was not bad, despite his bad taste. The man yelled, asking why the spy was smiling. The heroine replied that she was simply thinking about how best to carry out her boss's orders. "Does the boss really want to get rid of him?" she asked again. The man shouted, wondering if Murong had suddenly gone deaf. She was upset because the boss was furious and demanded murder, and she doubted whether it was worth doing. The presenter repeated the price of the lot, and immediately someone appeared who wanted to interrupt her. It was Han Xinwang. Even the boss was surprised by such a stunt. Where else could he get promoted? The guy asked why they were staring at him like that, since he was just waving a fan, and it suddenly became hot. The man got angry. This idiot clearly ran out of money. The girl started counting the price of the lot, and if there were no more proposals, she swung the gavel. The boss grinned, anticipating the moment when the lot would be in his hands, as expected. But the main character just laughed, and he raised the price of the lot, shouting out 300 million yuan. Zhang Li jumped up, not believing what he heard, and demanded to check his rival's bank accounts. The hero replied to Zhang that he should not care at all about the amount of money in his account, and he looked defiantly at the man. The opponent continued to shout that Xinwang was interfering with the auction, and that he might even be a fraud. The host shouted to Zhang that their auction house carefully screens each participant. But the boss didn't hear her and continued yelling at Khan that if he refused, he was clearly hiding something. The protagonist calmly said that before throwing around accusations, it would be better to place a bet to prove the availability of funds. The man was angry. How dare this scoundrel? No one had ever dared to provoke him like that before. They started arguing. One was rushing to make a decision. The other was insisting that even with a ransom of 300 million, he would still end up in the black. Suddenly, Zhang Li raised the price of the lot to 301 million. The girl looked closely at the participants and announced the current amount of this lot. But her gaze showed suspicion towards these participants, and it was not in vain, as the man continued. He didn't give up and offered to test the impudent fellow, since he had already proven that he had money. Xinwang smiled and offered to bet on it. Will he be able to pay off the auction house? The man smiled, saying that such tricks did not work on him. The protagonist raised the bet to 400 million. These are the problems of a boss who is not going to argue. Zhang Lai replied that it would be all right. The brat had talked him into it. In response to a question about the bet, the guy replied that the loser would grant the winner any wish. The boss was surprised that he spoke so calmly about money and did not believe that he really had 300 million. Xinwang said everyone was trying their best to pretend. It's as if everything is under control, and he is amazed by such calm. The protagonist stood up and said that silence was a sign of consent. The hero narrowed his eyes, watching the brat, and then he said that he wanted to make sure that he really had 300 million. He asked if the presenter could scan the code and check the amount of money on his balance. The girl replied that she was hearing about this for the first time and needed to consult. Zhang Li burst out laughing and asked him if he wanted to publicly embarrass himself by scanning the code in front of everyone. To this, the guy replied, "It's so sad. Not everyone is given the opportunity to use common sense." And he reminded that for every fish, there is a bigger fish. The presenter was discussing something on the phone and said that she understood. She replied that the auction house's financial department had assured her of this. His funds will be handled properly and nothing will happen to them. In agreement, the protagonist closed his eyes, and holding out his mobile phone, he said that she could scan it. He applied the terminal to the code, and the heroes waited a bit. A few seconds later, it was announced that 300 million had been transferred. All participants in this auction rose from their seats, and the boss snatched the terminal from the girl's hands, shouting, "It's impossible!" He looked at the terminal, not believing that it actually displayed 300 million. The protagonist stated that Mr. Zhang understood perfectly well deep down, and he's just looking for an excuse, because he lost. The presenter demanded the return of the terminal, otherwise she threatened to impose sanctions. Zhang Li shouted out that he had ordered an investigation. His sources assured him that the guy couldn't possibly have that much money, and they were never wrong. The girl replied that 300 million had just been transferred to the auction house's account, and everyone had seen it with their own eyes. The man shouted that all this was too suspicious. He felt that there was a smell of conspiracy here. The presenter responded that Mr. Zhang had violated the auction procedure and reminded him that he had been forgiven for many things before. The man cried out, indignantly asking how they dared to talk to him like that, and he declared that everyone here had lost their fear. Putting on brass knuckles, the presenter declared that since the bet had been accepted, it was time to pay off the debts. He turned to the spy, but she had already disappeared. The girl approached the boss and coldly reminded him that she had close ties to his superiors. She smiled and noted that his connections were not at all that serious. Otherwise, he would have immediately found out who she was. It's surprising that no one told him about her. The participant jumped up, exclaiming that she had titanium brass knuckles and a white and blue dress with patterns. They leave no doubt that before them is the goddess of the auction house herself, Lu Zhe. The boss was perplexed, after all. Lu Zhe herself said that she left the auction house. He suspected that everyone around him was conspiring against him. There was a characteristic sound of heels hitting the floor. The girl pointed her fist towards the boss, hitting him right in the face, so much so that the man jumped straight back to the wall. The presenter announced that they could now calmly continue the auction, and she announced to the security to throw Zhang Li out of here. Then the heroine calmly walked onto the stage. She picked up the gavel from the table and asked if anyone else wanted to place a bet. A deathly silence fell over the hall. The presenter hit the gavel and shouted, "Sold!" and she congratulated Mr. Han Xinwang on his purchase. The protagonist declared that this lot should be transferred to the National Treasure Museum on behalf of Han Xinwang. The girl was surprised and asked the guy again if he was sure, and he answered yes. The system announced that the owner had been extravagant today, spending hundreds of millions, but had also given generously. It was touched by his actions. Xinwang asked if there would be any rewards for this. The voice replied that it had completely forgotten because it was touched. And when the reward arrived, Khan realized that even the costs of the auction could not be covered. But he breathed a sigh of relief because he received a ton of positive emotions. The system noted with admiration that the owner was not at all concerned about the loss of hundreds of millions. What a generous soul. Gawain asked who the main character was talking to. He replied, Yes, just like that. And he announced that it was time for them to return. The girl gave Xinwang her hand in response to his invitation, and, smiling, she answered, "Okay." The action moved to a luxurious house with many flowers. The main character entered a spacious bedroom, and he collapsed on the huge bed, still in his suit. Relaxing, he said he was finally back. Looking at his phone, he saw that Li Shui was currently feeling 60% regret. Reading the chat, he did not understand what the girl wanted from him. He read every line carefully, and he didn't understand why the girl didn't answer him. There were rapid knocks on the door. A maid came into him with a tray in her hands. The guy asked the girl what she was doing there. The tray of milk fell quickly to the floor, and the heroine held a fan in front of her. Having sat on him, she shouted that it would not be possible to simply pack up her things and leave, and he ran away. Because of him, the boss fired the girl, and she has nowhere to work. Xinwang replied that yesterday she ran away so quickly that he didn't even have time to find her, so he decided to just return home. She said that he should look for a new job for her. Khan noted that she looked simply magnificent in her maid's outfit. The house was short of a maid, so she didn't need to change and could get straight to work. The girl's level of regret increased by 5%. The guy asked if she was really offended by this, since she should be kissing his feet for her behavior, that he was even willing to hire her. The level of regret has risen again. The hero said that he was giving 3 seconds to accept his offer. She hesitated, answering, "Okay." The guy said that she probably had little experience as a maid, so there would be an internship for 3 months. He will provide housing and food, but without salary. Xinwang exclaimed that he was her master in life, and would remain so. After death, whether he died or not, she would forever be his servant. Murong's regret level increased by 10%. The protagonist admitted with surprise that he had not expected how powerful such phrases could be. Smiling artificially, the girl offered the gentleman a glass of milk. The protagonist replied that she was doing a great job, and now let her go and do a full cleaning of the first floor, since he was allergic to dust. She opened her mouth in indignation, completely removed the first floor. Who does he take her for? Xinwang took a slow sip of milk. He reminded her that they had agreed that she was his maid, which meant cleaning was part of her duties. Otherwise, she should look for a new job. The girl angrily snatched the glass of milk. Murong's regret level increased by 10%. He unexpectedly admitted that she was fierce and unapproachable in appearance, but it was with her that it was easiest to raise the level of regret. The protagonist returned to the topic of Li Shui again. For some reason, she still hasn't answered. Is this some kind of new emotional swing technique or something?